Oh, what a good morning. First, are we gonna do that? Are we gonna denigrate to first post? You know, I should make more channels more regularly. Don't motivate me to make more random Discord channels. Second, I was a little late today. A little late, but I got some ideas. I have to rewrite the book. Just have to. You know what's wrong with the book? I mean, it's a good book. It's got decent content on it, but sometimes it's like somebody wrote a book in 2002 and tried to keep it updated the whole time. So, for example, this script that he uses is like an ancient shell CGI script. I don't know, but it has to be done. Election. I mean, it's like, seriously, who uses a shell script to produce HTML output right now? I mean, he kind of totally tips his hand there by making his main project output HTML. And if there's nothing that screams 1990s CGI scripts, which is what I wrote for a living for all that time, that's it. In fact, we started using Perl because Shell was too dangerous and C was too complicated. So Perl was the only other thing in the, at the time that we could use. Hope my Twitch doesn't bug me today. Me too, but I'll do what I can. I haven't posted any of the videos yet. But I do have a really wicked, awesome website. It's actually got an updated schedule. Hi, Zeros. So this has been my priority. It's actually a little bit easier to read now. Yeah, it was some networking issue, probably. Who knows? But so yeah, I'm so proud of this now. I mean, it's like, and I've decided to just keep. Actually, I shifted to if you know web development, I shifted to variables for all the CSS, which took me like a full evening. And see how I have all variables now? So I can actually change the variable. This is what you have to do if you want to start theming. So if you want to allow people to make their own themes, if you do this, you can actually change things like the background color in real time. And so yeah. And then what you do is you just give them, hey, smart refrigerator, you just give them an interface, and then they can change. All you have to do is CSS variables are so cool. I can't wait till we get to talk about them. CSS variables lets you change things that are like all throughout the rest of your CSS. So I have like these different levels of grayscale, but then in order to, I haven't done it yet, but in order to make a light mode, you just have to set all those variables to other stuff. Oh yeah. No way, CSS has variables for more than 2 years. Yep. Maybe that's something I should have taught you instead of Java applets, Lakshin. I'm sorry to pick on you. We need more people in general who are like looking at things and sharing the new things. And what's funny is the whole time I'm doing this, I'm actually falling behind, because the reason I know the current stuff is because I used to like spend 2 hours a day reading to find out everything about the current stuff. And while I've been doing the beginner boost, I've been like completely off the map, off the radar. I don't even open my Twitter because I'm trying to do a whole bunch of other things. I think this is what happens to people, particularly people who write these books, is they fall off the map because they're writing a book and then they wake up, a year and a half later after the book's done and they're like, everything's changed, particularly in the web development. CSS from W3 Schools. Did you know they made a W3 Fools? But then they said, okay, we didn't mean it. Yeah. So yeah, variables are so cool because you can actually change. So like you want light mode? Okay. Oh, okay. So shield your eyes. You want light mode? Just change the variables. Right? Seriously. Oh, light mode's a little bit too intense. So this is what's so cool. I can like actually go like this and like make it less intense. So you see what I'm saying? The thing that's really cool about using CSS variables is that you can have a little button down here and you can let your users pick their own colors for their own theme. So you can like have multiple theme support for your entire site as long as you use those variables across the board, which is what I do. Then you can actually have anybody set their own themes. You can even have them change their own fonts. Yep, you can make a selection of fonts. So basically what this knowledge app is going to become, it's kind of like a Kindle. It's like you can go in there and change what your font is, your font size. You can change your colors if you want to read like this. If you want high contrast, you can do that. So this is the productive use of CSS. There's a lot. How do you get book opened in your tab? We're talking about which book? My book? I don't have a book. Are you talking about the books like this one? Like this first book here? We need to start, guys. It's 11:11:11. That's when I'm going to officially start at 11:11:11. Here comes 11:11:11. There it is. Time to start. I've been trying to create a shopping list creator as one of my girlfriends spends ages deciding on meals. Yeah, the book. Look, I just read the last 3 chapters of the book about functions and stuff, and I'm not to mention the fact it didn't cover a lot of stuff. So, look, it's still one of the better books out there. It's still, I hate to say this, but it is still one of the better books out there, but it still sucks. I love William Schott's book. I like his writing style. I like the fact that he has call outs in the side, you know, those boxes that talk about things that matter. We're going to talk about one today, pretty much roast Z shell without saying Z shell. And so, yeah, I mean, it doesn't suck. Okay. It doesn't suck. That's too strong a word to me. I mean, you know me, it's like, if it doesn't meet all of my needs, it sucks. Well, that's not very good way to look at life. It has flaws that grate on me and bother me. And I'm just going to say that today I went through, Man Bash. You know what's funny you said that, because I spent last night, I was rereading the book again, and I spent just as much time in Man Bash. Nobody wants to read the Bash manual. But I tell you what needs to be done, and this is what I'm going to do if I write the book. I'm going to read the Bash manual and convert it into layman speak for beginners. Why is that so hard to do? Why can't you just use the manual, the actual manual, and translate it so people can understand it? I mean, that's the book that needs to be made, and it doesn't exist. And, you know, so anyway, first of all, when I say man pages for dummies, yeah, you joke, but that's really what we need, because it covers everything. It covers bash tab completion. It covers the select statement, by the way. Select statement, he talks all about user input, doesn't even cover the select statement, which is phenomenally awesome. We're going to talk about that today. And I mean, these are all things that I found out by accident, just through, you know, random reading out there, particularly in the man page and other places. So yeah, I mean, we need to find like the true sources and kind of put those things together. I tell you what, though, I won't actually be. Well, okay, so Barra, that is another reason that I want to write a simplified man page using English that, you know, a 16-year-old could read. Half the problem with the education on the Linux and Unix world is that you get these big, ugly books. Oh my God, I found this one the other day. These textbooks, and they have this unnecessarily complicated language because it's a college textbook. It's like so stupid. I know. And so, yeah, even Trump could read. Like, so, yeah, see, you don't know about the select statement because it's not documented anywhere, and it should be. And so today I'm going to talk about it on the Twitch/YouTube. I am really sorry that I'm so far behind. I'm more than a week behind on posting videos to YouTube, but I think it's more important that I catch up with the content and stay ahead of you than it is for me to post YouTube videos. I will post them all. They're all still there. They're there as VODs. My single greatest priority over the last 5 days has been cleaning up this site so that it's readable, and so that I'm starting to have other people make contributions and stuff, and it sucks because I have to turn away your contributions because the framework for the knowledge app hadn't really come together yet, because frankly I wasn't planning on doing all of this at this pace. It's like, but it's really fun. I'm really into it. I really believe in what we're doing. And I'm super happy. I'm super happy with the style here. It's just so cool. Eloquent JavaScript. So just so you know, slowly but surely, I'm going to be like taking over the stuff that the book listings, and I've already started doing it. The first real problem, I talked about this yesterday. The first real problem I had with the schedule was the middle of last week, where we're going to do this. So I very strictly followed the chapters in my schedule, and I quickly learned that, you know, although William Schatz has a great writing style and everything, he doesn't think logically about what should come first. So he throws in variables and he throws in like parameter expansion in places that don't make any sense. And I happen to know they make sense a different order because I've been doing it for 7 years. William Schatz has never taught anybody anything. He's an engineer. So this is kind of my dilemma, and that meant that unfortunately I had to throw out the order and come up with my own order and my own words. And so I actually added this disclaimer up here. I just wanted to put here a note that this week we'll cover the parts of the content of part 4, but it will not be in the same order as the book necessarily. 4 hours a day I meditate. Yeah. So this is going to cover more or less all the stuff that's there, but I'm ripping it apart and putting it in a different order, so that. And by the way, this is the same order that I taught it in Python, like in 2013. It's the same order that, you know, I taught it in JavaScript. There is a particular order. Yeah, no, he's done a really good job. I mean, Schatz's book is fantastic, but it covers content in a fun way. But I do think that there's a few things that are wrong with it now that I didn't even notice before because I scanned the book. The book, The Parameter Expansion, was chapter 7, Seeing the World as I Shall See It. Yeah, right. What business does it have in chapter 7? Right? I mean, you're feeling my pain here. And you know, again, I talked about the CGI script that produces, you know, HTML as output. Most good coders are bad at teaching. And you know what? It's true. And honestly, I'm just going to be honest with you. I have met people who are way better programmers than me, way better programmers than me, but who suck at explaining things. And if there's one thing I think I'm a better communicator than I am a coder, but I love coding, and I like it because it gives me results, not because I like doing, you know, computational things in my as maybe like Last Mile says, you know, I live for bits. My brain works in bits. I think I heard him say that the other night. He's so much fun to watch. He's a guy who, you know, lives for the code and doesn't, to use his words, give a shit about anything else. So anyway, hopefully we can move on. It's going to be fun. We're going to have a lot of fun today because this is obviously, if you're seeing me like smile all the time, it's because this is, hey, bonjour. This is my thing. I have come to acknowledge that I love Bash. In fact, I've come to love Bash more than I loved Perl back in the day. And honestly, right now, my love for Bash is even eclipsing my love for Go, which I really love as well. But the thing that's really great about Bash is you get so much stuff done so quickly. You get immediate results, and that's just like really, really addicting when you get so much power so quickly. Is it going to be, you know, the next, 1,000-line program that runs at an insurance company? No. But it is a little cryptic and all that stuff, but I don't mind a little cryptic if it means that I can get stuff done quickly and powerfully, which I think is also a great appeal to people who like to hack, which is a lot of people out there, I think. Okay, so let's go ahead and start. I just want to review the schedule again. I did put this all in one page. I have redirects and stuff, but okay, so this is what we covered yesterday. We did a TMUX session in the morning. We had Bash. We had Bash as an interpreted language. We talked about what that means versus compiled. Go is compiled, for example. We created our first shell script, a tiny little hello world or a greet script. You learned how to do variables. You learned about where to put it. You learned about what the path was. We printed the output to the terminal using echo and printf. And yeah, that was yesterday. And then in the morning, if you want to watch the beginning of yesterday's VOD, declaring and using variables. We talked about the use of declare. We're going to come back to that again. We're going to talk really importantly about how declare is used to isolate scope and type. That means you can set a variable to be an integer or a type. And a lot of people don't think Bash has types and scope. It actually does. They just don't know. Python over Bash script. I agree. I think Python is frequently picked where it's a completely bad pick for coding competition or something like that. Using curly brackets. By the way, if you have a lot of really intensive leak coding kind of like data manipulation, unions and stuff, then yeah, Python makes all the sense in the world. You would never ever want to use Bash for that. But if you're just like patching together things and running things, yeah. Anyway, so using curly brackets to disambiguate, we talked about curly brackets in your variables to, keep a word from, bleeding into the characters that come after it. But those curly brackets are going to come back later. We use them in our variables for all kinds of things, for parameter expansion, which is just so damn cool. Modern ANSI escapes for RGB color. We talked about color. We did some escapes with the Greet program, and we talked about clearing the screen and how to do a reset. I don't think we talked about clearing the screen. Let me make sure I cover that. And we haven't talked about substituting commands as variables, which we need to do. By the way, he doesn't explain that. If he explains that, I skipped right over it. There's no specific section on substitution commands variables and substituting maths as variables. So I need to wrap up day 16 really quick. And then we're going to jump right into day 17, which is today. So let me just start out with opening up our old script if I can find it. I have to go find it again. I don't remember where I put it. Where did I put it? Where did I put my script? Someone remind me. RWX U. Is that it? Let me go check. Notes. Oh yeah, there we go. Hey, I remembered. All right, so here's our Greet script. I am a serious hater of significant white space. And I know it's unpopular to say that. You know what? It wasn't popular when it came out. You should have heard the people ragging on Python. We're not going to have a language war right now, but if you really want a good laugh, go do the research and go find Guido van Rossum and the gang trying to make anonymous functions in the mailing list where they're discussing it, and it turns out they just punt and go, guess we can't do it because of significant white space. It's absolutely hilarious because they basically just skip. Vikings wrote in Bash. Hit him hard and quick. Sorry, I'm really itchy today. The difference between a scripting language and a normal language. Scripting languages are interpreted. So if you don't know what that means, go back yesterday, watch the thing. Scripting languages are interpreted. I know I can't itch. I'm really itchy. All right. So here's the color. There is one other thing you can do to clear the screen that I forgot to tell you. It's actually faster than typing the word clear. Okay. So, and I'm just going to show you because I have one. So it is the clear ANSI escape sequence, which I have to go look up. And because I don't remember what it is, when I tell you the truth, I don't remember it. I should remember it. This is why your brain is not for remembering things. What did Einstein say? Somebody had that great quote. What's that quote? What's the Einstein quote about using your brain to not remember things? I don't remember it. I'm confirming Einstein's quote because I can't remember his quote. Yeah, if you needed a formula, just look it up. I feel good today. This is a good day. All right, so what do we got here? What am I showing you? Oh, I'm showing you, I have to find my colors, my ridiculous colors that I have in my environment, which I would never recommend anybody else do. But it's just my lazy way of doing color. So I have to find the one for clearing because I told you all the other stuff, but not clear. So yeah, I mean, we could spend like a whole day just doing color stuff, right? So you have like, here they are. You want me to send them to you? Okay, I'll send them to you. I know you don't want them. You didn't ask, but there they are anyway. Okay, so there's all of the different, things you might put in there. Inverse, blink, and all that, blah, blah, blah. Oh, and here's a couple more. Sorry, I should have sent these with the other ones. Oopsie. Why is it not playing nicely? Wait. Why is my magic wand not... Okay, there we go. Yeah. Never memorize something you can look up. Yes, that's the one. Okay, so this is how you do a clear. And, so, yeah. And that... I'm just going to mouse this. I don't care. Why is it exported? Little review from yesterday. Why is it exported, people? What does export do to a variable? Huh? What? What does it do? We'll give it another name because it's... All right. How about we call it CL? Right. Yes. Good. Good. Well done. So that's what export means. Speaking of which, I'll close this. You know what? I'm just going to leave you there because I might need you again. And how about you? Okay, we'll leave you here. And over here, I'll open up the schedule again. Why not put it directly in the function, the export? Because you don't need to export every time. I'm going to put this back in here. So, printing out using share variables, exporting variables to sub processes. People like to say subshells. Not just subshells, sub processes. Actually, no, in that case it is a subshell because only the shell gets it, but everything that runs is running in that shell. So there we go. Two subshells. Anyway, also the lack of using instead of indentation. Also, it is too slow. Don't know what that means, but I don't need to. All right. Yeah, I agree. So here we are. We got this. So there's our parameter expansion. This is everything. Hopefully this reminds you what we did yesterday. Now, today we're going to finish. There's a couple other types of variables that I did not cover. And one of them is just, we talked about this sort of disambiguation, I call it. But there are a couple other ways. There's one extremely important way. It's called command substitution. And what it is this. So let's say echo today is, and then I want to run another program and use it as a variable, or several programs, or an entire pipeline. So this is called command substitution and variables. And there's probably the most important, I mean, you will see them all over the place. So then we're going to have to put date here. And now when I run it, greet, you're going to see the date. Today is blah. See that? Pretty cool, huh? I could have used that with a printf in the same way or whatever, but it replaced it, right? But let's say I want to actually clean up the date a little bit. So let's say, oh, I don't know. I mean, there's lots of other ways to do this. I mean, you can do anything. You can do anything. I don't have anything prepared really for you to do here. You can even, here's a weird thing. You can even call your own program from within the other program. I wonder what's going to happen. I might cross the streams. Oh, I did. I broke it. I just forked bomb myself. So we learned a lesson, people. That was kind of fun. Shell recursion level is too high. Captain, I can't hold off the shell recursion. So I actually, and I'm glad I did this because we're going to talk about functions later. And I literally just did a recursive function call. So if you know what that is, if you've done any other coding, that's what I did. I called a function that's calling a function is calling its own function. Who's visiting? Oh, hi.
Hi.
I don't think you can, you better be careful. You get on this camera here, yoga girl.
So they were saying if you want your smoothie to be a meal, you have to put it together like your plate. So like oatmeal blended in is good. It's like protein.
Who would put oatmeal in their smoothie?
Oh, people do it all the time. This is juice. This is.
Yeah, I can tell.
It's got kale in it. Spinach.
This one's a little different, guys. I like them. I know they wanted me to get onto functions.
I upped the green.
You upped the green. Yeah, I can tell. It's really good. Thank you. Oh, you know what though? She brings me something in here. It's juice. Apparently juice you have to drink right away. If not drunk, well, that's the problem. See, she's like, I don't think I could do the oatmeal thing. Apparently with juicing though, this isn't a smoothie. With juicing, you have to drink it right away or the vitamins go bad or something. I don't agree with that, but I don't know. We'll have to see. I'll just give you that time back in like less break time. She needs to do more dishes. No, she didn't say that, did she? Where do the vitamins go? They're supposed to go in my body. I don't know. Wild man rum chugging juice. Green machine is good. Yeah, I'm a yeah. Mohi. Can we get back to coding, please? All right. So today is now. I have another one called now. Another script called now. Let's try that. Today is now. So this is so, you know what? Actually, vodka is actually really clean. So if you ever want to make a nice drink for yourself, you put vodka in your smoothie. I'm not kidding. You can actually put vodka without it messing your smoothie up. Let's see. What is it called when you put commands in parentheses? It's like it has vodka and I can't talk. Commands in parentheses is called command substitution, according to the Bass Man page, which I looked up yesterday. Not the Bass Man page. That's how to catch a good bass. I caught you a nice bass. What movie is that from? Anyway, so here's the one thing you need to know here is that you can actually put these in together. So you can have now. And this one will actually work. I know it doesn't look like it. Well, it doesn't look like it'll work. It actually will. And so there we go. Wait. Did it work? Maybe it didn't work. Ooh, it put something else there. Maybe it didn't. So anyway, we can actually, we'll get rid of this and put this over here. And then that should work. Oh wait, no. I can do now. How about this? Anyway, you get the. I mean, I need a better example prepared. I don't have one. And is the streamer having a stroke? No, it would seem as such. You guys nobody got my Napoleon Dynamite reference. Shame for shame. Anyway, so you can do why this. So the only other thing you need to know about command expansion, command substitution, whatever. Okay, so yes, and we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about dashes too. So echo. Anyway, I'm trying to find an example of this. So you can actually do this as well. Today is date. So backtick. A lot of people still use backtick. Big problem with backticks though. They're slightly easier to type, but it's not worth it. And the reason it's not worth it, this does command expansion as well. The reason backticks are not worth it is one reason. You cannot nest them. That means you can't put a backtick inside of another backtick. Impossible. So just don't use them. Plus they're harder to see. I mean, you think of them as just quotes and you're like, oh, there's actually something executing right there. And God help you if you type a backtick instead of an actual quote and end up running something random on the shell. So just use $paren combinations. Okay. So that is called command substitution. Now there's one other substitution we need to cover. These all of this conversation falls into variables conversation because you can use these things just like variables anywhere. And the next one is sort of a math substitution. It's called arithmetic expansion or something. And all that is two parentheses. So echo 1 plus 1 plus 1 is backticks are not posix. No, I think they are. Show me something on that. I read about that. Show me something on it. If you got any evidence of that, I'd love to hear it. So anyway, back is useful. No, this is when you're computing. This one, 2 parentheses. Now I can do maths. I can do some maths. And now I get some maths. 1 plus 1 is 2. And if you don't know the math operators for, it's another reason I don't like it. The book is driving me crazy. It says, hey, you know what? You can do math in here, but I don't think it covers math operators. It might have covered it earlier on. To be fair, I don't remember. So let's do a quick little nested command substitution. Bull crap. Nested variable substitution. That's not true. Frank, that is so not true. How many times? You can do nested command substitution in Bash. I do it all the time. Prove it. Fight me. It's horrible when they use it in books with a backtick. I went crazy like 2 days. Yeah. All right. So it's important though that you realize that this here. Oh, here's another cool thing. I probably shouldn't say this yet, but you can actually do variables in here without putting dollar signs in front of them. So check this. So see how I have age is 52 up here, right? This is another thing that's not covered in the book. Multiplication is a star. Yes. So let's do let's say result. Okay. I'm not using quotes on purpose because I want you to see. Now, you probably should put quotes around it. That is not a problem. But anyway, so let's do this. 2 times 2. All right. 2 times 2. Stack Overflow is always right. Oh, you're so funny, Frank. All right. Cal versus Cal Echo. Yes, you could totally do that. So first of all, it's worth saying that there might be deprecated POSIX. I don't think backticks ever were POSIX, to tell you the truth. I don't think they were. But anyway, you shouldn't use them. You'll see them a lot, but you shouldn't use them. I used them until more recently than I would like to admit, as in up until 2 years ago. So here we go. So here we got this, but here's something cool. A lot of people don't know about the. Hopefully it's going to work on me. I'm not going to make a fool of myself. I'm going to try. I'm going to try it first. 2 times age. Please work. Please work. Please work. It did work. Hi. Yes, I'll upload on live. I know I'm delinquent. I had to get my website done. I'm so sorry. I will definitely upload them. You know what the main reason I didn't do it was? Number one, I wanted to think if I needed to cut out all the swear words that I did a couple days ago, and 2, I needed to put the schedule in the description, and I didn't have it because the days were so weird. So I am so itchy today. So people, math substitution is a thing, and that's what this is. Notice, however, it's the one place that I know of that you do not have to put the dollar sign in front of a variable. In fact, it's the only place that I know of. Can anybody think of a really cool variable that we could put here instead of age that already exists? Should we have some fun? What variable should we use? What if I don't want my age? What if I want to be a random age? How about this? Random. I want to be random modulo age. Wait, where's modulo? This one. Now watch this. Watch this. Hey, I'm 20 today. Hey, now I'm 10. Now I'm 28. My nose is itching. All right, so 48. That's cheating. Now I'm 24. Wow, I'm time warping. Now I'm 16. Now I'm 8. env variables. Yes, it is. So there is a really special environment variable called random that will give you a random number between 0 and I think 32,000 or something. I think it's to the 56th. Have to nest math functions. You don't have to nest them. It does. You can, but you don't need to. I think you have to put. Let's try this. It doesn't get into them though at all. I agree. Yeah, but you can actually use parentheses in there just fine. So I just wanted to show you this because this is super powerful. If you want math and don't want to use BC and get a whole subshell, you can just echo a variable. So let's say, so you can like echo. In fact, I don't even think you need to echo it. I think you can just actually type it. Let's try that, shall we? Random. Nope, fine. Echo clear. What am I doing? Where did my... Fine. Must not have historied it. Sometimes I put spaces just to keep it 3. So if you do the modulo operator on it, it will actually pick it between... There, it's picking 2. Okay, and now I'm going to do a watch while true do. Watch. Will that do it? Yep. 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. Nope, that's not what I wanted it. See, that's why I have to use a while loop sometimes, because it'll calculate it and won't show you the next one. So, I guess I'm asking, why are you putting that in 2 parentheses? Because you have to if you want math. That's why. You don't get math. You can't do it in 1 parenthesis. I don't think it will work anyway. Should we try it? Let's see if we can break it. I like learning by breaking things. Let's try this. Yep. See that? Doesn't know. You know why? Because the single parentheses are command expansion. So you can do, you know, like my now is a command, right? But if I want to do maths, then I have to do it like this. I have to do 3 times 343. Alrighty. So that is what we're doing. So those are the last 2 variable types. So it's only to pick out of 34 meals, so I can random 34. Yes, you can. Absolutely can. Probably wouldn't go. Probably work goes up to. Yeah, but you can modulo that by any number. Yeah, and it does 0. Yes, that's right. It always does 0 to the number, and that, by the way, all random number generators, that's what they do. The number that you provide is always the upper limit. That means it never reaches that. It's super important you remember that. So if you're going to do like a dice roller, you usually have to add 1 to it. All right. So I just posted the simple difference between all quote symbols. Nice. So yeah, there you go. Yep, there's your D20. That's a great thing that you did there. Why'd you put it in parentheses, in brackets though? Just cause? I'm trying to think about, wait, I guess, yeah, that would be fine too. I mean, that's just, it's doing, yeah, I don't know. Assuming random number generates each number will equal probability. Biases summary of some of that power to. Yes. It's not truly random, so I should probably say it's not like cryptographically safe randomization. It uses dev random, which is not, you know, it's pseudo random. The thing that's cool about it is it actually generates a consistent string of random numbers, which is super cool. That's how Minecraft seeds work, by the way. They're always guaranteed to be the same thing no matter what, even though they're random. So it seems non-random, but it works. Anyway, so what else we got to cover? So, hey, wow, we got through that pretty fast. And substituting math as variables, we did that. We did commands and variables. That's pretty much it for anything that's in the variable category in terms of, you know, just how you work with variables. We have not talked about types. We still have 2 important variable types to talk about. One of them is an array, and the other one is, so we're going to talk about variable types a little bit later because they do in the book. Personally, I would have liked to have talked about them right now, but I'm going to, at least on that point, I'm going to wait because I want to get you to long variable strings, which are super important. Back quotes execute anything inside the quotes. Yes, but don't do it. We talked about that. Don't do it. Because you can't nest it. Okay? Yep, that works, right? What if I wanted to do something else? Cannot do it. Okay? So these are the same. I'm repeating myself at this point, but those are the same. All right, let's go back to something else. So we need to talk about here variables. This is a little bit controversial, and I don't use these that much. So I'm kind of biased. I'm going to tell you why I'm biased. So what's a here document? I call here variables, here documents. Here like as in here. Okay, so to use a here document is like this. You do something. So you're going to say echo and use like these two greater than signs. And you can consider this kind of a form of redirection. We talked about that in another week. The less than and greater than for redirecting output to files and from a file. And so you cannot. No. Don't use backticks. The end. And then so echo whatever, and then you type the token, which is generally EOF or EOM or whatever. Okay, and then you hit enter, and it puts out all the stuff. And the thing that's cool about this is you can say you can actually use variables here. You can say another thing. You could say now, and it will keep going until you type. You can even put actual quotes, actual quoted, and even double quoted. And it will keep taking in data until you type whatever. In this case, because the token I set, and we type whatever, it will do it. Now, it didn't echo anything. Why did it not echo it? Oh, there it is. Well, let's do it this way. So rather than echoing it, let me go back to my sample, because echo should have worked, but no, I need cat. What am I talking about? The whole point of this is cat. Okay, let me correct myself there. So echo works with strings. Here documents and here strings work with cat. So they work with their pipe. So think about strings. I always mix these up. So this will work with cat. Okay. So recommend C show with bash you can't even use. That's such bull crap. Will you stop spouting lies, Frank? Please stop spouting lies. So there we go. So cat whatever. And so there you go. You can cat this stuff out. So the secret here is that sometimes you want to have a big old thing and you want to send that as now while I'm at it, let me teach you about okay, which I know. Okay, so no, that's not true. We'll do it. We'll talk about that. Let me finish what I'm talking about. So, however, if you add an extra, right? If you add an extra like less than sign, then what happens? Well, now cat won't work anymore, right? Because why? Because this is called a here string. So there's a here document and there's a here string. See what it tried to do? It tried to run every one of those commands. So let me show you this again. So we have here documents, which work with cat, and then we have here strings, which have three that work exactly as if you had typed all of that stuff into a string. Yeah, BC. And this one also is a problem because it's actually going to try to run all those things. I'm sorry. That's as if you, I guess, what am I doing wrong there? Oh, I need to do a read on that one. Yeah, anyway, I'm mixing up all my stuff. Let's just stick with here docs for now. So here docs are usually for cat, and what they are is sometimes you're like writing. Let me show you an example. So if you're writing in a script, and you have something. Now this is why I don't like them, because okay, I have something long. So I don't know. Declare rent equals, and then I can put a quote and then do here there. Let's see. Z shell is not good because it doesn't export functions. All right, so there we go. and so now we're gonna I have my rant here, and I can echo rant, echo $rant, and let's see what happens. .greet. It's not a greet at all anymore. Let me delete all this other junk. Delete. Oopsie, too much. All right, so here we go. Fresh kale juice. I agree. It's almost time for my break anyway. Z shell is now. Did you see what it did too? By the way, so this is the danger of echo. Okay, so here's it's 11 o'clock. All right. As a bash hack, environment variables containing functions are a bash hack. A lot of people think that's true. I think it's bull crap. Yeah, it was responsible for you know, what are you going to do when your code doesn't have a Z shell though? Tell me that. When your system, I mean, you might have just used bash because it's on everything. Look what's going on here. Someone tell me. So what's going on, people? Why is this not printing? Why is this printing everything on one line? Why is this putting everything on one line? Someone tell me. Because this doesn't have quotes. So, moral of the story, and you will get burned by this, put double quotes around your echoes. Okay, if you want to have the line returns preserved, you have to put that on there. So that's the thing. And next thing, I was going to say, so this is what I would do. The people who argue against using double quotes for this kind of stuff and using here docs, it's very rare for me to find a here doc used anywhere. But it's good that you know about them. Usually you can just use quotes. So people who don't like them, so here's why. So I can say is, and I can put, it's like a variable here, is answer. Okay, so I can define an answer here, declare answer equals is not, okay. And then I can echo my rant and it will echo and it says it puts not in there. Okay, so it does variable substitution. If I do single quotes, of course, it's not going to do that. The people who use here docs, one of the reasons they do it is they can't work, right? The reason they use here docs is because they like that they can put quotes and everything. And I won't lie, that's kind of nice. So you can do, you know, let's see here. Let's try this. Let me try something here. I'm trying to think about how I could do this best. I don't think I can do a declare that. I don't know. Let me try that. I'm trying it. I don't remember. So something. We'll try and see if I can do this or not. Getting aged. Let's see. Greet. Nope. So that doesn't work. Something. Oh, because of the dash. Is it because of the dash? I don't know. Is it because this is right here? I don't know. Can we do cat something? Ooh, yep, that worked. So it has to read it. So declare. I'm gonna have to go look at my. I've always wanted to figure this out, so I'm going to go ahead and do. I don't use here variables very much. They're not very useful to me. I just use double quotes. Let's see here. Rant. I wonder if I can cheat and make it use it, and I don't think I can, unless I do it with this. But I don't think that works either, because that's not sure. Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll show you some examples where I actually use this thing. Most of the time, though, I just don't even use here variables. You can just use double quotes for most of the time, and you'll be fine, and you'll get it. So anyway, What do I have there? What's going on? Let's just answer blah, 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 blah. What's giving me trouble? Oh, duh. You can't have spaces, silly. I know about the shell shock disaster. I know all about it. Did you notice when it happened? When's the last time anything has happened with the shell shock disaster? I know. That's one of the reasons that I started doing shell. I don't use it for everything, but the fact that you can use it is a big deal. People say that it doesn't have it. That's a feature of Z shell. Yeah. Actually, do I have Z shell on here? Z shell. Yep. What is that in a few words? Shell shock? Somebody found out that because exported shell functions are environment variables that contain functions, and they figured out a way to change the environment variables so that they could run anything they wanted on any system with bash. It's called bash door or shell shock. It's probably the biggest Linux bug in history. And because of that, people have gotten really anti-bash functions. And frankly, you shouldn't overuse bash functions. If you watch my streams in December, I was like really, really into them. I still am into them, but it's been fixed for years. Yeah. So it's not a thing, but Z-Show people in particular love to bring it up. So here we go. Let's do this. Temp foo. I'm running Z-Show right now. It is break time, so I'm going to do something. So I've been wanting to see if this is actually a thing. I've been wanting to confirm for myself. Yep, there you go. See, this is the kind of Z-Shell insanity that frustrates beginners. This is exactly the equivalent to temp foo, piece of crap Z-Shell. I had somebody there's somebody on YouTube who did a shell tutorial, and they taught on a YouTube video that this was the proper way to get around using cat. And that is a lie. If you do that in any POSIX or bash shell in the planet, you get this, which is nothing. So why would they do that? And why would they teach it? It's one of the many tiny little reasons that Z shell is the devil. Because it insidiously makes you think things are fine and they're actually not. Now, I will give you a few things. So floating points are a good thing. So we're off the clock here. We're technically in break time, so I can rant a little bit. So, yeah, let's do that since we're in break time now. I'm sorry you can't set your quality. I have nothing to do with that. Write a letter to Twitch, please. It's not my fault. It's Twitch's fault. All right, so let's do this one. Let's try some floating point math. So, because we did talk about math, so let's do that. Dude, I'm not kidding. It's totally Twitch's fault. Go ask them. Go ask them why they haven't given other streamers good stuff like YouTube gives you. See, that is a big old fail. That's a big old fail. And you know what other language does this? Python. Yeah, and so does Go. In fact, every language on the planet does this because they don't use floating point. So let's try it. So this is not one, obviously. And if we do a 0, JS, that's probably fair. Error in token, and you can't use a dot. So moral of the story: don't use floating point math in Bash. Lewis says 1.33. Yeah. So here we go. Let's try this. Syntax error in a mathematical operator. In fact, the only way to do this properly, I think, is to use BC. And so let's try to do that. So as I said, I mean, I'm going to tell you, you can get around the floating point problem. But the fact that Z shell supports floating point mathematics and it's different than Bash is so dangerous I can't even tell you. Because if you start using Z shell and you think that floating point math is going to work in Bash or POSIX shell, and you go to try to use it like you learned how to do it in Z shell, people will die. It's like money will be lost. So the fact that Z Shell decided to support floating points is a bad thing. It's a bad thing because all of the other shells on the fucking planet don't do floating point mathematics. And so if you think that because you grew up on Z Shell, because you wanted your Oh My Z Shell power line, and you thought that you can do this, and you can't, and you thought that you have floating point mathematics, and you can't, and you go to do you go to work professionally anywhere in the world that will not be using Z Shell, I guarantee you, you will write these things because you think they are there because you learned it incorrectly, and then you'll lose your job. So that's my rant. And it's this is an objectively, I love that it does floating point. Do I wish Shell does floating point? Hell yes, I do. PowerShell supports it, yeah. I totally wish it did. It's time for me to take a break for 10 minutes. I'm going to go calm down. Frank, you know I love you. I love, yeah. I love that we can have these fights. And, you guys know we all love each other here. I'm not angry. I do think we need to debate these things. Okay, so let's go. I'm going to put the fish on. I will be back at 12:10 and we'll figure out, we'll do some procedures and functions and stuff like that. Listen to the nice, happy music. It worked. It's all good. So
I don't know if I could do this and have a full-time job where I went out into the world, but I'm going to do it now.
Yeah.
Oh, I did read yet another article about yoga being good for inflammation and heart health.
Yes.
Helping you age
Yes.
strong.
Can't wait to do my yoga in 2 hours. It's a regular topic in this house. Yoga, yoga, yoga. It's 12:10. Time for me to start with less ranting. Hey, how's it going? Mita, haven't seen you in a while. Command history. Where are we? Who's GitLab? What are you looking for? Bash RC aliases in general? Yeah, that's fun too. Yeah, I know all about that. I actually have been mapped. Weather. My weather is a curl, one of those curl commands. We are going to cover curl at some point, and I don't know how to work it in, but we're going to figure that out. About why virtual environments are suboptimal. I don't know if I would say they're just slower. I still have to stay on the shell scripting topic. That's a really great question for the hashtag virtual machines channel on the Discord, rbx.gg. Click on Discord. I encourage you to ask that question there. Virtual environments are you talking about Python virtual environment or no virtual? You're talking, yeah, virtual. I'm sorry, I read virtual machine. Virtual environments are. I should probably prepare my thoughts on that a little bit better. The bottom line with virtual environments are that we already went through it with the JVM crap, and it seems like nobody in the world has learned from the disastrous mistakes of Java, which required people to bundle JREs and JVMs with Java, which is against the whole premise of Java, because they couldn't guarantee that everything that they needed would be there. And so as soon as you have a situation where you have to start bundling a Python environment or a Node environment, which includes a copy of it and all of its settings and everything and all of the machine libraries and everything, you might as well just cross-compile using a language that does static linking like Go. Because why? Yeah, I mean, we don't want to go down this road. This is a big, long conversation, but that's the nuts and bolts of my problem with it. Interpreted languages were really fast, and we fell in love with them really quickly, including Bash. But we started pushing interpreted languages and using them in ways that should never have been done, and we continue to do that right now. We are doing that right now with Node. So now you have Node virtual environments. You're not doing Node right unless you have a Node virtual environment. We have Python virtual environments. Anytime you start adding a virtual environment to a language, you're putting a big fat band-aid on the problem, which is the language is not distributable. It's really hard to have your application packaged and distributed all over. And if you look at the history of Python distribution, particularly, I mean, it is so horrible. Even Guido's talked about this before. They have like 10 different ways to package. So at least there's some consistency emerging finally in 2020 for you to have it. So just put it in a virtual environment. Then make sure you get your own. Well, then why don't you just use a Docker container at that point? I mean, really. So, the idea of a virtual environment, I think virtual environments are just straight up dead. I don't think they have any practical value at all. If you are reaching for a virtual environment, it's a good chance you should be reaching for a Docker container instead. And so that's my biggest gripe. Now, you can debate me on that, fight me in the chat, but not right here, right now, please. And let's go ahead and finish up some of our shell scripting. And by the way, none of that's personal. I'm not attacking anyone who believes differently. I just think that idea is not very good. It's so easy to make a Docker container right now. Honestly, Java. Well, we're not. I mean, the Java thing is a different. The thing that I mentioned in Java was not about it being slow. It's about about having. At one point in history, people not only bundled the JVM, they bundled the entire Eclipse IDE. You think Electron is bad? If you haven't seen anything until you've seen a same-time chat application with the full Eclipse IDE built into it with a full Java instance. That is the epitome of bloat, and that's what IBM makes because they want to save money. So these are this idea of bundling code, and the whole idea of these things is that we were going to be able to have that's a real thing. So same time Lotus Notes, at one point at IBM, I had 5 instances of Eclipse running on my machine at the same time. And people complain about Electron. And I'm like, you have not seen bloat until you have seen the shit that people did bundling Eclipse. And thank God that stuff all died immediately. And I didn't say anything about Java being slow. Java is really fast, actually. That's not what I'm talking about. Java is one of the faster languages on the planet. There's no question about that. In fact, I would say it's the fastest. But it's actually not even the people are stupid. It's the people making the decisions about whether the software is going to, how fast is time to market. So the reason Electron and the reason Eclipse get pushed so hard is because they can make stuff so very quickly. They can turn around applications really quickly. And the people who are holding the purse strings, the pointy-haired bosses who are making the money decisions, don't care how bloated it is because they're not thinking what is best for the world. They're not doing Kant's moral imperative. They're not following Kant's moral imperative. They're following the evil Sith alternative, which is what can I get away with and make money at it. And every time you find evil in our world is because people are operating based on that and not Kant's moral imperative. So there you go. And so why don't I like virtual environments? Because there are people saying, hey, what can I get away with for the most part? And that's, when they should be picking the right option and reducing technical debt and spending the money to do it properly. But they don't. They don't because it's not cost effective. Anyway, so yeah, making money by suing little people. Oh, that's that. Don't even get me started on that. So yeah, that's Oracle now too. And SCO, and soon to be IBM actually. So we have Greet. Let me go back to my schedule so I can get myself back on track. I don't think I need to leave this one though. Let me go calm down. Maybe I need some more coffee. No, never need more coffee. Less coffee, if anything. Where's my oh, here we go. Guy schedule. So let's we're going to move into functions and loops and stuff, all the good stuff, fun stuff. So for this segment, let's see how much we can cover. We did substitution and all that. Missed the first hour. What was covered? So assigning, right here is what we covered. We covered this stuff here. We covered substituting commands as variables, math as variables. And I might add, thanks to Frank's little note, let's make sure we cover this. Beware of floating point arithmetic. And so, I mean, his point is very well taken. People need to not expect floating point arithmetic in Bash. Just don't expect it. Bash does not provide it. So there you go. If you want it, you have to use another tool such as BC and other things. We won't talk about that right now though. Or assigning long variable names. We talked about here documents, which I don't use. I just use long quotes. There's one thing that's in the book that I really, really want to advise you against. I'm actually going to put it in here. Do not use initial tabs. Okay, so they recommend. So there's this really weird thing. That originally had a good purpose, but it's completely dead now, where you can put, when you do a here, and what does that mean? Okay, the best way for me to show you is to actually just show you the PDF. So PDF learning, the Linux command line. So I'm actually going to show you this from the book, because it's just faster. Can I just tell you how much I love MUFDPT? MUPDF. Is that right? MUPDF? So we're going to use functions in a second. So, okay, here's the book. Here's the stuff on here, variables. And stuff. Okay, so this is showing you how you can do here variable. We did that already. And this is they have this little like thing here where they say, hey, by the way, you can use use a dash in here, and you can put any kind of tabs you want to, and it'll be fine. Now, initially, that looks like it's great for readability and stuff. But do not do this. This is like the devil. Most of the time, when you're dealing, first of all, if you have VI set to tab expansion, which I have and most people should have, you don't ever want to do that, because now you've got tabs mixed in with your spaces and you can't tell the two apart. And I guarantee you that will get you at some point, because you'll go to try to execute one of these lines someplace or copy and paste it into a JSON or it's any other kind of file and data, and you will not know there's a tab there, and you'll get it in there and it won't work. It won't parse, it won't split, it won't do something properly because there's a tab in there. Do not unnecessarily put tabs in your code unless your language requires it. We're talking about Bash here, but unless your language requires it, like Go or something, then do not put tabs in your Bash code. Do not do it. Just don't do it. Please don't do it. Yeah, you can turn your Vim to show tabs if you have them. That's fine. It's super easy to do that. Still don't do it, okay? Because the next guy's not going to have that set, and then you're going to get screwed up, and he's going to get screwed up. He's going to be like, what's going on? So you don't need to do this, because if you use quotes properly, you don't need to do that, okay? So what PDF reader? This is MUPDF. You can read all about it on RWX MUPDF. Makefiles, you do need tabs. Unfortunately, this is true. We're not talking about makefiles right now. Makefiles is a C thing, and we'll talk about that. Okay, but Frank's absolutely right. So makefiles, when we talk about C coding, makefiles do have tabs. It's one of the only file formats that requires a tab specifically. So anyway, I just really can't tell you how many times. I mean, if you want to do it anyway, fine. It does make it look pretty. So here we have an example of he's using it again here to do that. So just, I don't even want to cover it, but I want to just, anyway. So Python requires tabs. Python technically does not require tabs, of course. That's silly talk. In fact, Python, if you mix tabs and spaces, what happens? You want me to try it? I'll show you. It's one of the other reasons I hate Python. Everybody's done it. You're not telling me you've never written any Python and accidentally mixed your tabs and spaces? No, it actually does not take tabs. No, I don't want to show you because that's a Python lesson. So just know this: if you're choosing to code in Python, which I don't cover at all in the boost, make sure you use either tabs or spaces in your entire file, or your code will not run. Okay. This is the official Python recommendation is now to use spaces. Awesome. Python tabs is hell, and it screams as the Python author just doesn't care. You can't use tabs, period. It will scream at you. So, and that's another reason to do tab expansion if you're using VI. All right. So back to something else that's more fun. I'm still having fun, I promise. I've been overly grumpy today because I'm reminded of all the stuff that's out there. Anyway, reading interactive user input. Okay, there is nothing more fun on the shell than making interactive user input. So this is the basis of making a story game or any of those fun things you can do on the shell. Yeah. Okay, good. Yep, that's good. That means you're not using tabs. You're pushing the tab key, but you're not actually using tabs. Let's see, reading interactive user input, giving the user a selection of options, iterating over in for statements. We might not get to all of this today, but I thought we'd put all this in there. Python does not require tabs. That's very true, but it can use them. Okay, so reading interactive user input. Let's talk about this. This is actually a really fun topic. So let's go ahead and make a new thing. Let's make a story game. Yep, there you go. That's the error. And how do you fix that error, by the way? Set list in VI. When you set list, then when you see tabs, you see actual tabs, right? So there you go. You can see your spaces versus tabs. When I push tab, it gets translated. All right. Set space so list. Sometimes some people have that mapped to an F key, function key. All right, let's make a story game. Shall we make a story game or something else? We can make a story game, or we could make just some way to prompt someone for something. So let's actually just change our greet. Let's actually go back to an actual greeting and say this. We'll say, look, we just want to have a greet, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to clear this screen. So let's do that. Let's first, yep, we did VI on Tuesdays and on Friday last week. Friday specifically, we talked about that. So, what am I doing? Echo. First of all, I'm going to echo a clear to the screen. I'm going to echo clear. I could do this. It's going to, fine. I don't care. You know what? Fine. Declare. I'll be a proper coder. I'll do my declares anyway. And we're not going to talk about clear versus local yet. It's talked about in the book, however. Echo clear. What does clear do? Clear clears the screen. So I'm going to do dot/greet, and it clears the screen. It actually does it way faster than if you were to call the clear command, which is actually a C code that does the same thing, requires a subprocess just to clear the screen. So it's always faster to clear the screen to just send the sequence of characters to the terminal through an echo. Okay, so here we go. Next, we need to ask a question. So let's actually do the greeting. Let's do echo hello world. Let's see, we changed this already. I got to change it back. Name, we'll say name. So name, and then we'll say, okay, and we'll say, oops, what am I doing? We'll say declare name equals world. So by default, we're going to do that. So then we do this, we do greet, and it says hello world. All right. I guess I don't need that clear in there for now. Comment it out. So we're going to do this one, greet, hello world. Okay. But what if I wanted that world, the name to be something else? Man, I want to read it. I want to read it in. Well, let's do that. Okay. So let's say I want to read. So the first way to get input into a program is arguments, and I am going to write about these right now. Working with arguments. Okay, so arguments and parameters, I'm going to throw those in first. So there are an unlimited number of arguments and parameters. Do you guys know the difference, by the way? Any coders out there, can they succinctly tell me the difference between an argument and a parameter? Okay, so if you're in math, right, let's talk about arguments and parameters in math sense. So f of y, f of x equals 2x plus 3. All right, so what is that? Right, what is x? Okay, so x is a parameter, right? And that means it's a slot. It's a thing that you can put something in. And the thing that goes in the parameter is called an argument. People mix these up all the time. It's like, even official college textbooks totally get this wrong. So if I say 2 is, so I say f of 2 equals 2 times, I suppose, 2 plus 3, right? So that's how it expands. It's definitely going to be on the test. Yeah. So 2 is an argument. So you see the difference? That's super important that you get that. Okay. The argument is the value passed to the function. Yep. And then x is the parameter. So x is a parameter, and 2 in this case is the argument. And people, yeah. So people mess those up all the time. Even math people mess up. So what is this? So down here, what if I wanted to make worlds, like from the user? I wanted them to type it in. Okay, so I want them to type that in. How do I do that? Well, there's automatically already something that's typed in. Okay, and so let's just comment this out for a second. And then we go here, we're going to do this, and we're going to say, I want to have name be something from the outside world. Well, we can do $1. So there are automatically number variables for every argument that's passed in. And this is super cool. If you know any other language, it's like some arg you have to hidden behind an array or something like that. So it's actually really accessible. And so what you can do, but anytime you use a variable like that, you should really, you should generally get in the habit of over quoting things. When in doubt, quote it out. Because you just won't, you'll regret it, So when in doubt, quote it out. I should probably put that in because I've talked about that before. When in doubt, quote it out. In shell, you just do not want to risk expansion of things on the shell. When in doubt, quit it out. Quote it out. So seriously, just you know, be safe. I overly quote things because I'm so paranoid, because I've lived through stuff that is like manipulated lack of quoting. So anyway, so name equals 1. So what is $1? Well, that is input from the shell. So now when I do this, it runs it and it says, hello, but where's my world? The element X is the argument or input of the function. Yeah, well, they're wrong, Frank. I'm telling you they're wrong. It's not. X is the argument. No, the X is a parameter. Function with parameters. Look for that one. A function with parameters. And that Wikipedia article is dead wrong. So, anyway, in computer science, a parameter is the thing that is passed into the argument. Or the argument is passed into the parameter. So anyway, so here we go. Declare $1, and you can see that there's nothing there. So it goes ahead and it just prints nothing. So what if I wanted it to have a default? So this is your first use of parameter expansion. So to have a default, we're gonna give it a parameter expansion. And so to do that, we could write a big lengthy if statement. If their thing is there, then use it. And then, or we could do this, and we could say colon, and then dash, and then world. And what that says is, if it's not set, make it world. Okay. So this parameter expansion is POSIX compliant. This will work with Z shell. This will work with POSIX and dash and all the other ones. There are a lot of other parameter expansions that do not work in POSIX, but this particular one is POSIX. And in fact, let me prove that to you. Declare is not POSIX, so that might fail. Let me just try. Yep, I was afraid of that. So declare is, these are not POSIX, so let me get rid of those. Let's just make sure I'm not lying to you. Where's my declare? Do I have another? All right, I'm making my script POSIX-y. Yep, see, there it goes. So that proves right there that it's POSIX compliant. If I'm going to go back to my non-POSIX compliant, you can't. Dash and POSIX do not have declaration. Everything is a global, and we're gonna talk about that when we talk about functions a little bit more here soon. About scope, about variable scope. Bash has a full support for variable scope. Dash and POSIX does not. Everything in those languages, they vary, but everything in those languages is a global. K-shells, I'm getting ahead of myself. K-shell brought in the local keyword, which has now been superseded by the declare keyword. So that's more of a function conversation, and we'll talk about that when we talk about functional scope. Okay. So anyway, I'm really sorry, but I have to take an unintended break because of that smoothie. I'll be right back. All right. I'm back. Concerned. No, I'm fine. Here's a pretty big one. Turtling. What is turtling? I don't even know what that is. What is turtling? Back in the class has some turtling, shrugs a pencil. A gaming strategy where the player focuses on building up his defenses rather than going on the attack. It is mostly common to... Ah, cool. I learned something today. Today I learned what turtling is. Thank you for the education. Oh, there's probably something else related to that. Screensaver is just fish. It's just in my thing. You want it? Here you go. Give fish. There you go. There it is. You have to install some stuff, but there it is. All right. So declare. Let's see. Let's see. Just in the math is different in computer science. Is it right? The calling a program provide action. Frank, thank you for that insight. That's fantastic knowledge. So that's actually one specific place where the math terminology differs from computer science. Wow, that's like a really great, fun fact to add to the writing. So I love that the thing that we're going to end up with is going to be so much better because of your contributions. All right. So anyway, this is the first way to set a default input parameter. Okay. Now, if I were to do number 2, it wouldn't exist, right? So if I change the number to 2, let's just do that for fun. So if I just do 2, greet, and then I get, it's still hello world because it doesn't see it. If I do greet Rob, it still missed it. But if I do greet ignored Rob, it'll do it because it's the second one, right? Now here's something crazy. You can actually use 0. Anybody want to guess what 0 is going to do? Yeah, I looked up a definition sufficient for my needs. What did it do, guys? Figure that one out. Yep. Okay, so what I just told you right there is the answer to a level of over the wire. So just take note of that. That is the answer to a level in over the wire. And if you know, you actually have to use that fact, but it's not just doing it. So just make sure you understand that. So you can actually change $0 and it will change the name in the process table of the running command. And you can use it to give status about your running process in the process table output. We used to use that for daemon code and stuff like that. It's pretty cool. You can actually have it change and say what state it's in. So if you want to just be able to PS a thing and see what state a daemon process is in, you can actually change $0 and change what shows up in the process output. It's super cool. You can put colors in it and everything. So it's kind of a fun little trick. Anyway, so what else we got? 0 is always the first argument, and the first argument is always the command or the path to command that was used. It is not the name of the executable. That is something different. So in that case, I don't know if you noticed, but my $0 was /greet. So it's always the thing that was exactly used in the execution. This is going to come up later when we start to do tab completion. We're going to start to write our own tab completion scripts because you have to chop that first one off. Otherwise, it'll mess up your tab completion. All right, so we've now got a variable, and we're setting that through an argument. Now, the thing I want to bring home here is, before we get into this conversation about functions, is that commands are functions. Subroutines, procedures, we're going to talk all about, they're all sort of interchangeable terms, but they have different meaning. So a command, in a very real way, is running a function. And this is a really great thing. In fact, it occurred to me today while I was showering, actually. I was like, we need to start teaching terminal as if from day one you're writing you're programming. You're programming. Using the terminal is programming. Why? Because every single command is the same thing as if you're calling a function or a subroutine or a procedure. Every single command is that. So we just wrote, basically, if you know other programming languages, greet. We call it a command, but what is it really? It's an action, it's a function, it's a procedure, it's a subroutine. It is in every, essential way, a function call. And we just happen to encapsulate it in a little file and everything. So you can think of the entire command line environment, this read, evaluate, print loop that we're in, as if you're in the middle of an interactive program that you're writing as you go. And I gotta tell you, that is a super powerful way to think about this because that's all a function is. Because now I can say something like a function / procedure, we'll talk about the difference in the terminology pretty soon, is what? It's just a mini script. So And I mean it's a mini script, and particularly in Bash, because you can do things that you cannot do in other languages. For example, let's put our little greet thing here in a function. Okay, so the way you do functions, and don't tell me about the function keyword because I don't want to use it, because I don't even think these are not actual functions, they're procedures. We'll talk about that. So let's name it greet. Okay, so I can actually have a function named greet that is greet. Now I'm going to start calling this thing a procedure. I'm gonna lead with commands, and we're gonna start basic programming on the first day. Yep, that's something I've never ever done before, but I'm gonna try it. We're gonna learn to think about what we're doing in terms of programming from the very first day on the command line, and that's a huge change that I've never done before. I'm really excited. So anyway, what did I do differently here? So I put greet into what? I put it into a function, right? Now here's something really cool. So let's do this. Let's say another greet. All right. Now I have a greet, right? Now watch what happens. If I do if I just source it, I can type source, which is hard to type. So source./greet. Greet. All right. Now what? Now I have a function. Do you see what I just did? How can you tell that that's not a command? For all intents and purposes, it is a command. In fact, watch. Another greet, right? Here's another crazy thing. I can actually, this is going to really blow your mind. I hope I don't blow your mind too much. I can actually name it the same thing. Okay. Now watch. Now when I run it, I can still run it, right? It will run, but it won't do anything. Why? Why doesn't it do anything? Because I hid the code away inside of a procedure, a subroutine. Subroutine is an old word. I'm glad Frank brought it up. Subroutine is a really old word for everything we used to call this. A subroutine is a number of steps, commands or actions. Procedure is another way to say that. It's like, do this, now do this, now do this. It's like a whole bunch of actions together. One of the greatest tragedies in computer science, I think, in practical computer science, is the use of function for everything now. And Pascal used to teach you had to have a function, you had a procedure, and there was a direct, very distinct difference between the two. And I think it's really, really unfortunate that everybody codes as if everything is a function. And to Python's credit, it just puts def in there. Even basic had go sub. So you're going to know the difference. But I tell you what, most people out there, if you ask them the difference between a procedure and the function, or the difference between a subroutine, a procedure, and a function, they'll go, huh? They have no idea. But I'm going to tell you why it's important, because if you understand the difference, you will write better code. Because when you go to encapsulate a little bit of code, you'll have to ask yourself, notes and Visio. Yeah. So when you go to write code, when you go to encapsulate away a little bit of code, you have to ask yourself, what is this thing? Is this a function? Is it a procedure, subroutine? What is it? Why am I doing this? Why am I encapsulating this code? Why am I, making this little mini bit of code? What kind of thing is it? Why am I doing it? And if you actually, ask your name, yeah, they probably only do. If you actually ask yourself that question, you will write better code. Because what you'll do is you'll keep your functions in functions, and you'll keep your procedures and subroutines in subroutines, and function and procedures. You won't mix the two. And what you will see all over the place now, and I believe this is next lesson will be on Haskell. I know. So the problem we have is that people code. You see this all the time in modern code. People mix the ideas of a procedure with side effects and subroutines and stuff like that to do things to your environment, and a function that returns something that's critical. And so they'll mix the two together all the time, rather than just making something a pure function that has no side effects, that just returns a thing and takes in things, just like math, and making a procedure or a subroutine, which has like usually really a lot of effect on its environment, everything around it and outside of it. And that's the essential difference between functional programming and procedural programming. Is that functional programming, strictly speaking, everything is a function. It takes in something and it returns something, and then it manifests, it continues to operate that way. And Haskell is a purely functional language. I do have if you go to rdvx.gg/language, I talk about this a little bit. I don't want to get too far in the weeds. This is just a boost, but understanding the difference is important. So the book calls what we're about to do functions. And in fact, the keyword to do this, there is a keyword in Bash called function, which I really hate. And so we're going to do this. We're going to say greet. And I'm actually going to call this, oh, thanks guys. I'm actually going to call this a subroutine. Okay. Now a subroutine is an old word. And people don't use it anymore. But you'll know I believe the word subroutine and procedure are largely the same. Frank might be able to confirm that for me, but procedure is usually better to call it a procedure. A procedure is how to do something, just like in the real world. This is a procedure. Do this and now do this and now do this, right? And you really don't care about the procedure other than its relative success. Did it go without an error, or did it have an error? That's really it. You don't care about, there's not like multiple values coming out of it other than different ways it failed. And we're going to get to that when we talk about return statements next. So when I call this, I'm going to call this a procedure for now, because it's not returning anything. And if you hear me say procedure and function interchangeably, maybe help keep me also in line. And I'm actually going to call them what they are. So in this case, this right here is definitely a procedure. Why? Because it's doing something outside of the scope of itself. It's like accessing the terminal and spitting some content out, right? By the way, it's a lot harder to test procedures. I call everything a function. Some have just avoid as a return. Yeah, and Java is one of the and lots of people, Frank, a lot of people do that. So a lot of people do that. I call them functions too, but you don't want to hear my solution for this. I call them procedural functions, and I know that sounds like an oxymoron, but that's what I call them. So that's the kind of keep the people that call everything a function in the know, so they know what I'm talking about. I say, well, this is a procedural function. In other words, it's got procedural code in it. Is there a way to return a 0 to see if the procedure had an error? Yes. And that's what we're going to do next. We're going to talk about return codes. So data, that's kind of a good segue for what's coming up. So, but the first thing, returning to this thing. So what did I do here? So I took these, this was a function before, right? So in fact, if I comment out these two lines, it was just a regular old script, and I can run it. And what does it do? It runs, does its thing, right? Now, when I put it inside of these curly brackets and I put a name in front of it like this, a procedure is definitely imperative programming. Yep, definitely. That's a good association. Procedural programming is imperative programming. That means here is do this, do this, do this. And yeah, imperative and procedure, they're slightly different, but yeah, definitely they are the same, usually mentioned the same. So now when I run this, it doesn't run. Now think to yourself, why doesn't that run? It doesn't run because I kind of like squirreled it away inside of a procedure, a subroutine, a function, whatever you want to call it. We store procedures in a SQL, yeah. So that's when you have stored procedures. You know what? That's a good point. So SQL, so Postgres SQL has functions and it has procedures. And procedure is an old term, and I realize it's an old term, but I don't think that it's lost its value. Even if you think it is a really old thing, that's fine. I just want to make sure that you guys understand in your minds when something is a procedure, really, even though we call it a function, and something's a true function, because then you'll understand the difference between procedural coding, functional programming, and it'll really help you when it comes to testing and things like that. So for example, how would I test this? Right? So, it's a little bit harder to test. So in order for me to even get this code to run, I have to call it. So basically, I just made myself a little command, right? English is great and sucks, new thing, call it a new thing, too confusing, a new thing. Yeah, you could grab the standard out. There's lots of ways, but that's technically speaking, then you're examining your environment to do the testing, right? And Bash is pretty tough to test, and there's no doubt about it. Exercism has a Bash test-driven development framework you guys might want to look at if some of you've coded before. So anyway, what did this do? This ran it this time. So when I run it, so I like squirreled away this code inside of this procedure function thing, procedural function, subroutine, whatever. And then down here, it actually calls it. And to make it work, pure function. Yes. Oh, I like that better. I've been calling them pure functions since the beginning, but I think that's a good way. I like that, Frank. So pure function. Yeah. So this is not a pure function. We can just say this is a function, but it's a procedural function. So I want to teach you the right lingo. If you go into like, I focus on this all the time. Imagine you working in an enterprise environment and you go in there and start saying, well, I need to make a procedure for this. They'll be like, oh, would you learn in Pascal? I mean, they'll laugh their ass off at you because they don't know the difference because they never learned the difference. And you can know the difference and still call it's a function. And then you can say, this is a true function. And then they'll still know what you're talking about. So look, you guys are just in the know now, okay? You know the difference between the things, but you can use the language that they use. And frankly, I'm going to go ahead and do that too, so that people watching the video won't get confused, okay? So this is a function. So we'll tell this is a function with side effects. So this function down here, greet, what does it do? It prints something out, all right? So just for the sake of argument though, let's go ahead and make a true function for a second. Professional dev for 4 years. Also, I am dumb again. We all have dumb. There's always more to learn. So let's do this. Let's call this. Let's like say. I don't know. Let's say so a true mathematical function, right? So double. So let's just make double. What does it do? It returns. It returns 2 times the thing. So, and we'll put 2, and again, we got it. We can't use floats, thanks to Frank's reminder. So 2 times whatever $1 is, and in this case, we have to put the dollar because 1 is a number. And so that would be a true, thing. So let's actually source this. So sourcing is different than running. You guys remember how? We talked about that. So now I can actually type double 2. Oh, did I mess it up? I think I did. I know what I'm going to have to cast this as a variable. I don't know if that's a good example. So let's do it like this. Let's do this. It'll work in here though. Double 4. And this is another problem, is that everything in Bash is a string unless you declare it otherwise. You know what though? I think it's going to convert it to a string. I don't think that's a good example. Anyway, I didn't test this one ahead of time. I'm just shooting from the hip on. You know what? This is getting screwed up because Bash sees by default. Bash adopts all of everything as a string function, which is that's when Python starts looking good. Because it doesn't have types. Bash doesn't have types really at all. It does have them, but they're harder to get even than Python types. But it sacrifices that in terms of functionality. So I'm gonna leave functions alone for a bit. Let me make sure that I talk to them like properly. But you can return numbers and stuff. So that's what I was trying to say. Is you could actually, well, I'm getting ahead of myself. So let me back up. I didn't. You don't need to echo it out. You want me to try it again? Double 4. All right. So echo. I mean, I don't want to lead you astray though. I think this still might have problems because I don't know if it's gonna duck type it. So if it doesn't, I'm gonna feel bad. Yeah, it doesn't, because it doesn't see 4 as an integer. I think the only way I can do this in Bash is I'm way out of beginner territory right here. But so if I do so int equals 4, and then int, I think I can pull that off. Let's try. Nope, still not there. I think everything gets converted to a string when it hits the shell, and I'm glad we're going through this because I mean this is actually one of I've been considering things that I can do in Bash that I could do in Perl before, and Perl would have been fine with that, but this Bash makes everything into a string. once it hits a shell. So that's interesting. That's interesting. Let me try something else here. I mean, I think I could probably call the function in here just fine, and it would be fine. But I don't know. We're going to find out. I'm like off the rails here. I'm sorry. It's about my break time anyway. You can't use single quotes because single quotes would break it. So let's do this. Declare dash I another. Guys, if you know what's going on, please don't stress. This is subshell, so it's not going to work. Echo another. That worked, or did it? Int is 4. Nope. So that's double 2 times. I think you can actually. I don't know. I'm out of my league here, so this is not something I was planning on talking about today. But it is important to understand that everything in Bash is a string by default, and declare, which I've only really started using for integers very recently, does allow you to do that. So, how do I pass arguments as integers in Bash? Does anybody know? Does Z shell do it that way? Is that one thing that they tried to fix? The fact of the matter is, you almost never need actual types when you're typing in Bash, and that's Bash is not meant to be a strictly typed language. It's meant to be a get shit done fast language. The reason I'm getting into the weeds on this is because I know usually I teach JavaScript first, and we can talk about types, and I can demonstrate them a little bit better. It kind of is, but it doesn't have types. So yeah, that's problems. Guys, by the way, I'm on break right now. so until like 1:10 it'd be the end of this segment. But this is some of the stuff I wanted to look up anyway. So I'm just kind of curious. But so if you guys want to be curious with me. Just for the last 8 months I've been going through actually he talks about it in the book. Let me read you a section of the book that I really liked. So, shell functions in your Bash RC. He has a little segment on being a truist. This book is, you go to rwx.gg/books. It's the first book on the list. It's a free PDF called Learning the Linux Command Line. So here, I love this little thing here, and I'm not going to read this officially on the stream, so I'll read it during my break because it's a little offensive. I like William Schatz. I just like his style. Portability is the hobgoblin of little minds, and the reason I like this is because I lived in an environment at IBM where I had to write code I was forced to write POSIX code that would only run on every possible Unix system that ever lived. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because about 8 to 9 months ago, I was considering, second edition, yeah. I was considering, the PDF is there if you want it for free. It's actually, you can download it. I was considering, because I've been a big Perl and Python guy, and so I really closely evaluated Bash, and that's why I'm interested in this thing about types. To see if it could truly replace Perl, which is what I was using a lot before, or Python, and because it now has regular expressions, which we're going to get into, and it now has associative arrays, which are super powerful dictionaries from Python, and because it has all of these extra things, I've been seriously evaluating. I've been loving Bash because for the first time in my life, after working at IBM for 10-15 years, I allowed myself to use things that are not portable. They're plenty portable as long as you have Bash. And so this little comment here, he says, if you talk to real Unix people, you quickly discover that many of them don't like Unix very much, like Linux. They regard it as impure and unclean. This is very old. This I imagine he wrote this in the 90s, because I definitely know his CGI script printing out HTML as his example in his shell script is a 90s example. Nobody would ever print HTML from shell today. It's just stupid. So one tenet of Unix users is that everything should be portable. This means that any script you write should be able to run unchanged on any Unix-like system. That's the whole POSIX compliant thing. And Z Shell camp is kind of a weird mix, because I'm not slamming on Z Shell, but in this case, they're kind of in that. They're like, well, you just have to write POSIX and we're good. We're all portable. But the problem is that there's so many non-portable additions in Z Shell that render it completely POSIX incompliant that they can't invoke that logic because it doesn't apply. And I showed two specific examples of that today. So Unix people have good reason to believe this, having seen what proprietary extensions to command and shells did to Unix before POSIX. That is what Z Shell is doing. For the sake of, a better shell, they've extended the shell in their specific way, and that's fine. So did Bash. They are naturally wary of the effect of Linux on their beloved OS. And that's damn true. I mean, the graybeards that taught me learned on Solaris and swore by it, and they would have a big problem with Bash. They had a big problem with makedir-p, which isn't supported on any Unix system by default. Anyway, but portability has a serious downside. It prevents progress. And that's the argument Z Shell people invoke, or fish people, frankly. It requires that things are always done using lowest common denominator techniques. In the case of shell programming, it means making everything compatible with Z Shell, the original Bourne shell. Now, another way of thinking about that usually brings in the argument about VI versus Emacs, right? Well, people say, well, you want to use the lowest common denominator. You want to use VI with no extensions because it works everywhere. I say that all the time. Well, that's still true, because it depends on your goals. It doesn't mean don't use Emacs, don't use Bash, don't use Z Shell. It just means know what you're getting into, know the differences between Z Shell and Bash, so that if you're going to be paid to code on a system where that doesn't have Z Shell, that you'll know not to make the mistakes of using things that don't exist in it. And that's a little bit frustrating for beginners, because they're like, well, what's POSIX and what's not? What can I use and what can I not? There's no clear way to distinguish that. And I work with beginners all the time. So it's very frustrating for me to draw that distinction. And that's why I'm going down this rabbit hole with the whole, addition and type and return values and integers things, because that's a big part of what a beginner has to understand. So anyway, it says here, this downside is the excuse that proprietary software vendors use to justify their proprietary extensions. Only they call them innovations. You know what else they called an innovation? The fucking blink tag in HTML that Netscape made. And it got banished from HTML5, thank God. It's one of the only tags that was actually removed. The marquee tag is still there. But they are really just lock-in devices for their customers. And they have done that. Microsoft is famous at doing this. So the GNU tools, such as Bash, have no such restrictions. They encourage portability by supporting standards and by being universally available. So, and that's true. It was true when this was written. The GNU tools themselves, it's a pretty broad statement. The GNU Foundation has lost its way in many ways, which I won't get into now. Primarily being GPL3 and forcing people to do things with their hardware that have nothing to do with the software that's being put on them. You can install Bash and the other GNU tools on almost any kind of system, even Windows, without costs, or Mac. So feel free to use all the features of Bash. It's really portable. So this sounds exactly like someone who came from my situation, who lived and worked in an environment where he had to code POSIX compliant code, because it had to do audit compliance on thousands of machines of all different types, and that was my job. So yeah, I had to write POSIX. And so about eight or 9 months ago, I gave myself permission to use extensions. And it was glorious. It was an absolutely glorious moment. I was like, oh, wow, I can actually use dictionaries. I can use regular expressions in my if statements in Bash. I can use all these other things. And pretty soon I was like, oh my God, I don't need Python anymore. And I was getting burned out by Python screwing up other things. So that was when I really made the move to Bash. Now, and now I'm here. Yep. And so one of the other one of the other things about Bash, though, that's been lingering is, and I'm glad Frank brought it up, has been the typing system in Bash. The first thing that I got over that I was really worried about was scope. So having everything be a global, that is like so dangerous and so devilish and so hard to work around. You can't even have return codes in POSIX shell. Your functions cannot return things, which is just insane. You can return an integer and that's it. But if you wanted to send everything else out there, you'd have trouble. Anyway, Bash with backup seems good. Yeah. So yeah, engage all the glorious Bashisms. And so, but one of the thoughts, I mean, I want to try Perl 6. I don't know enough about it, Reiku, to talk about it. But anyway, so when it comes to I'm still on my break, so I can just talk. But when it comes to Bash, I'm a little bit afraid because there's a part of me inside that's still being drawn to do what he says, keep it all POSIX compliant. And I did get burned. So, I started making everything into a bash RC exported function, which he talks about up here. He doesn't show you how to export it, but you can do that. And that was a bashism. And I was like, and then I started realizing I couldn't shell my code. I couldn't share my code with other people. So then I actually made everything into one-line scripts, and then I could send them to you guys through WeChat, and you guys could download my code and run it right away, and you didn't have to have my whole bash RC. And so the portability of having it meant it ran slower, there's no doubt, because, it has to fire up a subshell to do it. But it was still portable enough to keep it that way. And it also meant that I could do bin sh and use dash, POSIX shell, rather than invoking a full bash shell. And it takes way longer for bash to start up, even though it's already running, than it does dash. And I did a hyperfine comparison of the two, and it was really notable difference. And that makes sense because dash was added to Debian to speed up the boot process, which was using all of that bash before slowing it down. And so, so that was one of the things that got me convinced. But the reason I'm talking about all of this is because the idea of typing and floating point and, but specifically having types changed, without explicitly changing them still scares me about a language like Bash. And that would scare me about any other language like Z Shell or any of them, because dealing with types is always, a thing. And to be completely honest, I don't do math in my shell scripts. No, because why? Because I just don't trust the type. I think it's safer for everybody to just think of everything as, I don't do a lot of math in my shell scripts. I do some, but not a lot. So, because why? Because I just don't trust it. If I want math, I tend to go back to BC. So BC is the way to do math. Did we actually finally lose our music? Or did I just turn it all the way down? Oh, there it is. Why don't I trust it? Because I've been burned by it so much. So I don't do math in my head. I wish I was that good. That's like Last Miles or somebody. Math. So floating point mathematics has been one of the most dangerous, most insidious things that's ever existed. It's the reason Python 2, and by the way, C doesn't have it. You have to explicitly ask for it, and you have to do the type conversion and all this stuff. Again, I'm still on break, so I'm talking about things that are not necessarily for today, but sort of relate. We have a bunch of things to talk about. So Python 2, by default, would do math truncation. It would do truncating division, just like I showed you. Bash is the same way. In fact, for a very long time, you gotta understand, these languages came about when there wasn't even such thing as floating point mathematics. The very, very first, computers that came out couldn't even do floating point mathematics. All it could do was integer division. That was it. There was no such thing. It wasn't until the floating point process. In fact, I don't know if you guys remember this, but there was a time when you had to pay an extra $200 to get a computer that had floating point math in it. Floating point math is dangerous for lots of reasons because the computer itself has to eventually round things around. A ton of use cases for floats. There really is. A lot of those use cases, however, are not the kind of thing that you would reach for a shell script for. You know what I'm saying? So usually when you're doing that kind of thing, you're not reaching for that. They use fixed point, but self-implemented. Yes, they did. So back in the day, and I didn't code back then, but there was no, you had to buy a floating point processor. And to this day, floating point mathematics is still a problem in computer program. Until 8080 has a floating point coprocessor, which is literally a separate chip. That's what I'm saying, right? You remember when you could pay to get the chip? You could actually buy a Mac or something without a floating point. Yep. So for that reason, I tend to shy away from floating point in general. And I don't, and by the way, if you want a language that gets math right really well now, Python 3 is way better for that. And so if like Python 3, Python 3 did something that is like, the reason people didn't used to do this is because it's actually kind of cheating. Again, I'm still on my break for another 30 seconds. So let me just show you. So I actually think I have Python 2 on here, Python 2. So if you do from Python 2, you do 2 divided by, so they say 3 divided by 2, right? Is 1. You see that? So Python 2 by default did truncating division. All right. And even if you did this, see, you had to force it. Say which one. Actually, I don't think this is. Yeah, it is. Okay. This is a latter version of Python 2.7. I think they added it. There was a time when you couldn't even do that. It would tell you the type was bad. And the .0, what that does is it implies the type is a floating point. And that's how Go works as well. So you got to be careful when you're doing this. This is part of the programming thing we're not even talking about right now, but you have to make sure to implicitly force the type to change, because the truth of the matter is that how quickly floats can go haywire, and how Intel cuts 128-bit floats to 80 bits. Yeah, I would love to see that. That's what if you have that VOD, I would love to go watch that. So it's really tough to trust floating point math. It's a big source of errors. People have gotten millions of dollars with bugs, just because of the floating point math errors. And so I'm really leery anytime I'm dealing with number mathematics, particularly float mathematics, and that goes for scripting or anything. But see, this here, they changed it to Python 3. Now it's 1.5. It is, but you know why? You know what I know they did that. I was about to show you that. But the reason they didn't do that in Python 2 is because they didn't want to force an implicit type conversion. And we haven't talked about types yet. I'm chewing into the time. But yeah, that's so Python, so by saying the result of 3 divided by 2 is 1.5, it takes in 2 integers and it returns a result that is a different type. It changes the type of the output. And in strictly typed languages, that's a no-no. You don't fuck with the types. You don't change the type. You say, if you give me 2 types, I'm going to give you the type of the output, or if you put it into it. So you have to have your types in control. So these interpreted scripting languages, they take a lot of liberties, JavaScript in particular, they take a lot of liberties with assuming what something is. If it's like duck typing is called. If it looks like a duck, must be a duck. And in Python 2 here, I did 2.0. It's like, oh, looks like you want a floating point result out of this, so I'll give you a floating point result. Otherwise, it's like, I'm going to help you out here. It looks like you want integers, so I'm going to give you the integer. I think, is this the thing? Nope. I think that's the Python 2 version. I think you can actually force truncating division. Yep. That's it. See that? So you guys know about that operator in Python? That's a Python 3 thing too. This is the truncating division operator. And what that does is it forces it, even if it's a float, doesn't matter. It forces it to do what it used to do anyway if you use 2 integer for division. Yep. So, but this kind of stuff is the source of a lot of really important, serious errors in the stock market and stuff like that. So this is why I paused and hesitated so much on trying to figure out types in Bash, because the fact of the matter is if you care about your types, if you care about anything more than a string, you don't want an interpreted language at all. Usually, you usually want something that's got much stricter typing. And this is why TypeScript is taking over the node world, because TypeScript adds strict typing. to what is otherwise a rather loosey-goosey language. And it's also why Python 3, of course, was made instead of Python 2. And it's a reason that Go is really popular, because it has really strict typing. Although it's loose enough where if you want to loosen something up, you can use an interface type or something else, so that it doesn't have to know the type at every process along the way, which can get really laborious, actually. If you had two integers together typecast as floats, something like C, you'll generally get a non-integer. Like, yep. Yes, and that people have seen that before. Yeah, that's floating point problems. Many languages will do floats in a more basic abstract fashion. There's easily simple example. Yes, floats can do odd things, so just be careful with them. I've been done with dynamic typing since Perl. Yeah, I don't blame you, Ramingo. So, you know, if you've been coding, you guys are starting out, so if you stuck around for that little break where I talked through it and talked about some of the implications of loosey, languages like this, just know not to do more directly to your experience. So one of the reasons that Unity script was removed from Unity is because there was so much loosey-goosey JavaScript typing going on in that gaming engine that they're like, no, we can't have this. And so, C# was the standard, and they kind of, just let the Unity script, which is really just JavaScript and Unity, go away, because you really, for that kind of application, that level of application, you really don't want a loosey language. And that's, we should probably package up this conversation about strict typing versus, the loose type language. Dynamic typing is more appropriate to say, in some better way, and we will when we get into the language conversation. But this just randomly came up because I was kind of hitting it with the arithmetic operator with Bash, and furthermore in the return values, and we're going to hit it even more when we talk about if statements. So we're going to talk about if statements now. Let's see. TBH, the one thing that annoys me with TypeScript is that I can't hack things together just to test them out. I agree. It's one of the reasons I still use Node for that kind of thing. So anyway. Yeah. Oh, I know. It's crazy. Have you seen this one? You guys want to see a fun Node thing? Console log. Oh, we're just having fun with types, right? 1 + 1. You seen that one? +1. I'm trying to, yeah, it doesn't know what to do. You can do 1 + 1. I don't even think you can cast it. Can you cast it? I don't think you can. Nope. I think you have to do, yeah. Anyway, so that's, yeah. Parse it. That's right. What am I doing? It's been so long. Dino supports TypeScript. Dino is TypeScript by default. Yep. It's super cool. I love Dino. I hope it is very successful. You can, but you can't. Look, the reason is you don't know what you're getting sometimes, right? You don't always, like, for example, anytime you're reading an argument, which is what we just saw with Bash, anytime you're reading anything from the shell, it's a string by default. So argv is a string. You cannot force stuff from the command line to be integers. You have to convert them. And every single language, C, Go, Python, JavaScript, they all require you to do an extraction of the integer from the string from the command line. Okay. The reason I was playing around with this is because I was trying to force this return value. I was trying to force a variable to be treated as an int throughout the whole process. But the fact that this is being converted into a subshell, we already talked about command substitution. So because this double is being executed as a command right here, it's forcing it to lose its identity as an integer. And so it looks like it's being processed as a string. And that is a problem. I mean, that's a problem. I don't even think it's worth pursuing anymore at this point. So the moral of the story is, if you're reading any numbers from the command line in any way, you always have to parse out the string and convert it into a number. And there's functions for that in C called A to I. There's another one, and Go has the same thing. So anyway, just so as you're reading input, just know about that. I was trying to do something with numbers there just to show a true function, and that's where that well, haywire. Flags package is amazing because it automatically converts strings to floats. Yeah, it does, and it just does that conversion for you, but that can be dangerous. We'll do it in JS is pretty fun. Is that the one? I don't remember. I was trying to look for it. So let's see. 1 plus. Yeah, that's what we were just doing. It's 12. It's actually not 12, but yeah, the string always wins in Node. It's also why we're getting ahead of ourselves. Different thing. I was going to try to cover functions today still, so let's see if we can do that. Let me look at the schedule and see how far we are following my own schedule today. Working with parameters and arguments, we talked about that. When in doubt, quote it out. We talked about that. I'm going to put a thing here. Remember, everything is a string. And you guys know what a string is? So this is another reason. I mean, so when I'm considering how to do the boost next time, normally the first thing I teach anybody is JSON. Why would I teach anybody JSON first? Because JSON teaches types. And I'm actually going to take a detour right now, and I'm going to teach you the JSON lesson up front. Because I want you to understand what the basic types are. And we have not officially talked about what the basic data types are at all on the boost. And so since we're getting into programming, we kind of got pulled into programming much earlier than we wanted to, because I've realized that the command line is programming every single thing we type. So I'm going to give you like the world's fastest lesson in JSON. And then we'll go into types and functions and go further on that, because it seems like we've been talking about types a lot today. So let's start with the basic types. And the best way anybody can learn basic types is to learn JSON before they even learn a programming language. So for example, I think I already have a JSON directory, but I'm going to go ahead and start it up anyway. Okay, so yeah, they are. So let's start a JSON file here. So this is a README I've got going on. This will be in the thing here. JavaScript. So JSON stands for JavaScript Object Notation. Okay, it's otherwise known as JSON. Versus root versus character. Yep, and go. There you go. So structure. Let's see. The world's most prominent structured data language. And don't get me wrong, JSON stands for is a data language beyond just JavaScript. So why do you need to know it? I'm going to actually set this so that it can be searched. This is what I'm typing in right now is called YAML, which is yet another markup language, or YAML ain't markup language, whichever one you want to go with. And this activates the search capabilities of it. So YAML is actually backward compatible with JSON. It's just easier to type. So we're going to give you a sample with JSON here. So I'm just going to write some JSON. So everything inside of this area right here is JSON code. Okay. In fact, I'm going to go ahead give it back to Python dictionary. Yes. So that's all JSON is really. I'm going to do a sample. So let's actually do an actual thing. So let's do like a student. Okay. How about languages? So languages.json. So we're going to create a collection of data about languages. So the first type of data that you can have is a string, and a string is just, so let's like Python. Okay. Actually, since this is JSON, let's do JavaScript. Let's say, so a string is just a series of letters, numbers, emojis or whatever that are bounded with quotes. And the quotes, the double quotes in this case, in JSON, it's very strictly double quotes. That makes it into a string. Now it doesn't know what to make of this thing, so that's why it's showing me that my JSON syntax is wrong. And I promise that will go away in a second. So set anyway. Next we have numbers. So we could have a number like, I don't know, 10 or something. That would go, so you also have floating point numbers, otherwise known as, we've been talking about it without saying it. In math, they're not called floating point numbers, they're called decimals. So we have like, 15 point, blah, 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 I get 3 point, whatever, what's pi? 3.8. I bet you guys can do like 1, 2, I don't even remember. How much can I remember my pi? Like 2 digits. So 3.2. So you see what I'm saying? So these are numbers, and they don't have quotes around them, and they have there's whole numbers or integers, and pi equals 3. And then there's there it is. There's somebody who actually knows what they're doing. Thank you. All right, so there we go. So yeah, 3.14. I had 1, 2. So there's your good old, so there's another number. So we have a whole number and a non-whole number. Non-whole numbers are called decimals in mathematics, but in computer science they're called floats. I've been throwing those words around, but we haven't really explained them. Math.pi is the true way to use it. Yeah, it's actually, you would never ever do this in actual coding, but we're going to try it anyway. Does anybody have the gravitational constant memorized by chance? Anyway, all right, so let's say, let's do this. 10? Well, I got this right here then. It depends on the location. All right, so here's numbers and here's a string. So if you don't know what those are, now you do. 9.81, I think it is. 9.81 meters squared. Yay, look at you guys. So, all right, so we've got these numbers. Now we have one more. We have one more list, one more type, and those of you who know how to code, oh my gosh, look at you go. Ooh, I like this one. Will that even convert? Ooh, let's use that one. That's fantastic. There you go. There you go. So I think we probably have to make this one a string, but I'm glad we're doing this because I think you actually have to, I think you probably have to. This is good because some of these really advanced numbers can't be communicated using JSON because they're too complicated. It needs e-notation. Can you do e-notation in JSON? I don't know if you can. These are all questions I normally don't talk about with beginners. E-notation. No. Is that JavaScript? E-notation in JSON. I don't know if that is. I think it's e-notation. I guess not. Can you use that in you can use that in JSON? I'm not sure you are. Encoding JSON, allow e-notation and into conversion. That was an issue for Go. JSON, the W3, this ought to be good. Does it have e-notation? I don't think it does. I don't think it does. Yeah, I don't think it's ever had it in there. Preferable not to. I would think you would have to convert it. I would think you would probably want to use JSON E to E. Oh, you found one? I think I was just looking at that one. Yep, I was. And JSON, its annotation JSON most probably is equivalent to positive, negative. So it looks like no. I don't think you can put it in. You cannot. Anyway, so I got distracted. So if you're a beginner and you're 13, making learning fun again. Like what you get on calculators. Yes. So honestly, if you're going to do scientific numbers, I would never trust them as numbers, raw numbers. I would actually put them inside of strings. So that's more than I would normally talk about. Anyway, there's one more type though. True. Okay. True and false. Those are called Booleans. Those are the three main types. So the three main data types are primitive data types, I should say, are strings, which technically are made up of characters. String is not really a primitive data type. C does not have strings, by the way. It has character arrays, and character is it technically a character is a number, which we'll get into when we get into C in particular. So just think of it this way: a string is like a necklace. It's a collection of letters and numbers. You got to make sure that the quotes are on the end, or otherwise all the stuff falls off. And floats and doubles and all that. We're not going to talk about the differences between floats and doubles and blah blah blah. Okay. Did it do it? So it did E notation. Well, there you go. So this must be E notation then. So 673E. I mean, this is good. This is good to look up. I've been wanting to do this. So that means that E notation is a standard JSON form. Fantastic. Okay. So anyway, doubles have a larger size and more precision. This is true. Yes, that's the answer to his question. So we have Booleans, we have numbers, and we have strings. So if you're new to this, that's what we're talking about. Okay. Now, everything else in JSON is a collection of these things. And, you know, the stricter the language, the more precise you specify what type it is. So in this case, this is an int. This is a float of some kind. Even the size of the float can be different. And this is a float with a real, or a double with a really, this is a float with a really high precision. And these are all actually kept track of differently internally. But as far as you're concerned, when you're just starting out, you don't care. They're all numbers. Okay. And Python looks at everything that way, sort of. There is some difference between integers, whole numbers and floats, but not much. So if you're just starting out, just think string, it's just a whole bunch of characters and stuff wrapped together. Actual numbers, which are different form of numbers, and true or false. And that's pretty much it. And every other data type is a collection of these data types. So for example, and strictly speaking, a string is a collection of character data types, but where JSON looks at this as one type. These are the three main JSON types. Okay, so you have, now, the thing about JSON is that everything is a collection. And there's two types of collections. If you've done any Python programming, I actually really like Python's terms for these, even though the terms are all over the board. Okay, so, yeah, okay, and we're talking about JSON right now. So there are two types of collections in JSON. One of them is called an object, because that's a JSON term, which I hate. And this is a place where I really like Python's term for this, dictionaries. Okay, the historic term for this is a map, or a hash map, or which is based on, that's a name that comes from one implementation of how to do this key colon value comma, key colon value comma, key colon value comma, key colon value comma. That is how you do this. So what does one of these look like? The other collection type is an array. And usually they can't be, so let me show you an example of that. So when you have a collection, an array called a list, and in Python, you can put a comma between them, and now you have a list or an array. Now JSON doesn't care about the types of the numbers all being the same. I could have a string in this list if I wanted to. I really like lists, the name list for that. But the more common name out in the world of programming, and strings are character arrays. So, and in Python, you can even treat it, most languages actually, you can treat a string as an array of characters, a character array. And we're going to get really into that when we do C coding. But so I'm just trying to show you about the two major collection types. So the collection here, this collection using brackets is called an array. In JavaScript, it's in Python it's called a list. So that's how you combine things. Okay. Now there is another type, and that is the same thing, but it actually has key colon value, types of things. So let's like this. So if I could put what's my favorite type of pi? I could do this pi, and I have to have my name has to be in double quotes too. So, and I have to have a comma, because why? Well, I'm going to get to that in a second. But see, this is a key colon value combination. So And the way you show a collection, and almost every single JSON file is going to be like this, is going to be with curly brackets. So square brackets give you a list. There's just a bunch of things separated by a comma. In an object, or Python's, they call them dictionaries, and they call them maps, and they call them associative arrays in Bash. You have a collection of name colon value, and what you get now, which is what you're seeing here, is you get an amalgamation of all of that. So likes is true, and so now you have I got an error, right? So then I have I can say numbers colon. All right, so smart comma. Yeah, I know. On line 4. Yep, this one doesn't have a comma. Don't need a comma here though. So, which is funny because in Golang, they require you to have a comma there. And I kid you not, because the error, that's how errors creep in. See how fast that error crept in? So it's some languages actually requires there to be a trailing comma. Instead of I cannot tell you how many times there's been errors when people move stuff around and then they forget the comma to remove it or add it. So they actually require every single line to have a comma at the end in Go. It's a cool little thing. Reduces lots of errors, I'll tell you that. So anyway, JSON requires the last one to not have a comma. So what do we have here? Something I still have is still wrong. What's wrong, people? It doesn't like my... What am I still... Oh, there we go. Okay. So the syntax from VI is helping me out to let me know things are correct. So you now understand JSON. This is the most powerful... my OCD design, I know, but in Golang, you have to have it or you can't compile. So why am I teaching you JSON before any programming language? Because Doug Crockford, who invented JSON, knew that every language on planet Earth pretty much uses some form of these data structures, these simple data structures. And so there you go. You have pi, so you have this colon combination. So here we have a string that's the name, and then a colon, and then we have a string that's the value, and then a comma, and then we have another string that's another name, and then we have another collection, an array, a list that has a bunch of numbers that are separated. And key colon value is the golden rule. Key colon value, comma, key colon value, comma. I always say that. I have my young people repeat it because I tell you what they forget. This is what they always forget. This is regularly what they will get an error on, right? Why do you care? So whether you are using command blocks in Minecraft to summon zombie hordes, or you're sending weather stats over the web, you are communicating in JSON. JSON is the most important structured data language on the planet, bar none. I mean, it is the most important language because it is the language of communication between everything. And now that we've gone to this world of APIs, which means that you have really powerful front-end web applications, and they're talking to, web servers all the time, but they're not getting HTML from the web servers. They're getting JSON from the web servers, and they're using those data updates to change things. So like when you're playing Agario, your WebSockets is sending you new positional information in JSON, and then your JSON program that's running inside of your web browser is being updated constantly with the new information. But that data is flying over the internet in JSON format. This is why it's so important that you understand JSON format. It's better than XML, yes. And we're not going to talk about XML today, but it's important you understand XML is another structured language. And just since you mentioned it, let's go ahead and do it really quickly, just as an overview. But the reason I need to cover JSON before we finish going on with functions and stuff, and after this big long type conversation, is because learning JSON helps you understand data types from the beginning without even necessarily knowing another language. You can understand the types of data that exist and be able to read things like, like the Pokey. You guys ever see the Pokey API database? PokeyAPI.co. So when you go to the PokeyAPI.co, which is this massive database of API queries, you can see that it's actually, they changed their interface. It's a little bit different now. Yeah, but this is JSON. So, you know, and you can keep expanding down into it. You can go look at the weather. You can actually query GitLab, was it api.github.com. There you go. So api.github.com. What does this look like? Can you read this? Looks like some pretty simple JSON, right? So you have to know JSON before you know anything else, because everything else communicates in it. And the reason Crockford invented JSON is he realized that every language has data in one of these forms, and so that became the universal lingua franca of data between things. But then, you know, which is funny because he invented it as a reaction to XML, which I'm briefly going to describe to you right now so that you can hate it as much as the rest of us. It does have a place, though, before I go too far down this path. It actually does have a place. And I'm actually going to copy -r this JSON into XML so I can give you just a little sample of it. This is all going in the app, so you can pull it up later. And I'm going to move languages.json into languages.xml. Or no, let's do pi.xml. Probably gave any Bitcoin? Not yet. So wait, what happened? Move languages to pi.xml. Anyway, so pi.xml, here we go. So now, so if I'm doing this in XML, I'd have to like have something like I don't know, record, I guess. You can make up whatever you want, actually. Slash record. And if it looks like HTML, that's because it's very similar. And you'd have like what would this be? Would it be an attribute? I mean, you can make up whatever you want. Pi, I mean, this is usually what they used to do, and I used to hate when they would do this. You guys remember this? They would make everything into its own. The problem with XML is it can be like so many different things. Oh, my eyes, I know. So I mean, can you imagine writing this? This is not object-oriented programming. Hell no. So likes equals true. And I mean, if you wanted to, you could do something like this. You could say val equals true, and then make it a closed thing. Define a schema. I know I didn't define. Normally, you'd have a big XML schema up here, XML schema, blah, right? And I don't even want to write it because I hate it so much. But in the numbers wouldn't even be here. This is the worst part of all. Oh God. Yeah. So usually like, so, we'd actually, I think, don't we have to have a value? We'd have to have, val 10. I mean, this is, can you believe that anybody even use this? I mean, yeah, we do. To be fair though, SVG images are XML, so you do need to learn it. If you want to do any kind of SVG animation, which is super fun and cool, you need to know XML. Also, most like Office docs and LibreOffice, those things are stored in XML. XML is really verbose, so nobody wants to deal with it. But I tell you what, it's very precise, and it allows a lot of complexity. Which sometimes you need a highly complex data structure of some kind. And I don't. So I'm not going to do it. It's easy enough to read. Most people think it is. I forgot to close numbers. Thank you. Oh boy, see, I am such a bad person. I mean, I didn't even get my XML right. Oh God. All right. I don't know if I want JSON SVGs. I don't even think you could do it. I've actually coded SVGs. I don't know if you guys saw, but I have an animated SVG. I did anyway, on my main site, and they're fun and they're all XML. So you have to know XML to know how to do it. XML and HTML, in case you're wondering, come from the same parent language called SGML. Okay, thank you for that. Somebody jumped in and did what I would not. There's no way I was going to type that. Ajax is Okay, so let's talk about AJAX since you brought it up. AJAX stands for Asynchronous JavaScript and XML. And the reason that that horrendous name exists is because when people did REST-like APIs in the old days, they used XML as the thing to send back. People actually, I'm so glad fetch exists in JavaScript world now, because you don't have to use get HTML, XML, whatever, AJAX thing, because it's not AJAX anymore. It's not XML. 9 times out of 10, it's JSON. Okay. So I need XML net files. It was hated at first sight. So this is a structured data format. You need to understand it, but you don't really need to use it. HTML4, XHTML, which is a massive disaster, and thank God it's gone, tried to make us all use XML instead of HTML. And the number one way you can identify that is by seeing this slash right here. So whenever somebody, like a break tag, instead of having just BR, they have BR slash, and that's because that was mandatory in XHTML or DHTML for a while. It was there, is what it called, but then HTML5 came along from the working group who saved the world and said, go jump in a lake or something akin to that, to the W3C, and made their own standard and said, you know what, we like HTML5 and we're going to keep it. Bye-bye. And save the world, frankly, from and that was why I got out of web development. When they started doing all this craziness with XML and SOAP and all this other crap, I was like, I'm done. I am so done with this. It was a massive disaster. And you know what? It proved that it proved out to be a disaster, and now nobody even knows about it because it's all dead. It died, thank God. So anyway, there you go. There's XML and why you should hate it. No, there's actually real uses for it, and you do have to learn it, as I said. Yeah. So, but you know, like the printer in Office Space, yes. Speaking of printers, there's a whole section on printing in Schott's book, and I'm like, this book is seriously from the 90s in some areas. Sometimes it's really recent, sometimes it's really old. So anyway, so pi.json. So which one do you want? I like pi. I like pi. I like pi in JSON much better. It's easier to read, and it's in fact it's such an important thing. I almost want to show you this, but JSON is so important now that it's built into the Go language. So I can actually write. I can actually unmarshal JSON directly into structures in Go. It's built into the language. As is a lot of languages. I think Rust has, Rust has a phenomenal marshalling. What is marshalling? Marshalling is a complex term that we'll talk about later. Yeah, SOAP was the worst. Marshalling is when you bring data from like a flat file like this into a data structure that's running inside of a program. That's called marshalling. Technically, that's unmarshalling. Marshalling is writing it out to the flat file, and unmarshalling is bringing it back into the program. So JSON is used for marshalling and unmarshalling, and the transport of that file is text, and it doesn't matter how that happens or where it lands. All right, so there you go. There is there you know how you know how all that stuff works. So I'll put some stuff around that, you understand it, but you can consider yourself knowledgeable about the data types, which are what, if you were to ask, what are the 3 basic data types? Strings, and I hate saying that because there's actually characters. JSON doesn't support characters, otherwise I would say that. Strings, numbers, and booleans. Those are the 3 basic data types, and then you have the 2 collection types. And to use JavaScript's terms, objects, which I hate that they call it that, and arrays, objects and arrays, or in Python terms, dictionaries and lists. Okay. And lists are list tuples, whatever you want to talk about. Okay, so Python has multiple names for lists. So does Java, by the way. They're like vectors and blah 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 blah. It's just a plain old list. But all you really need to know is those are the 3. There's the 3 basic types, and then there's the 2 collection types. And now we can build on that. Okay, we can build on that and do lots of other things. One thing worse than XML. By the way, since we're talking about JSON, I miss null. They got rid of null, didn't they? Did they get rid of null? They did, right? I'm glad you brought that up, Ramingo. Did they get rid of null? Or is it NAN now? Nothing. No, I think they did. I think they got rid of null. Object is the most abused term. Completely agree. Let's see. JQ. So, oh, by the way, if you want JQ, watch what, watch, I object. That was a brilliant joke. I almost want to VIP you just for that joke. That was brilliant. That was brilliant. All right. So, and listen Lua. Yeah, go look at listen Lua. Amazing stuff. I know Lua is basically a big JSON structure. Okay, guys, see this JQ that I'm using here? I'm gonna turn my opacity like way up so you can see it. So, or down. You can barely see that. It's like really dark. I'm sorry, but check this. So, when you do, so JQ lets you query your JSON objects from the shell. And I'm kind of getting ahead of myself, but I always talk about this when I talk about JSON. So it's a good way to expand and play with it. It's kind of like sed for JSON, if you know what I'm talking about. So I have a file here, and I have a dot. Dot says print out the whole structure. If I just want pi, I do dot pi, and now it will just print apple, the value of that. If I want numbers, I can put numbers, and that will just print the numbers. If I want the first number, I can do numbers 0 or numbers 0, but that will fail because why? Because now I need to comment out these brackets. I need to put them in quotes properly, and now it will work, and I get number 10. If I want the second number, I do 1, and I get the second number. Okay, and if you want let's go back here and get the other piece out of this. So pi, if I want the raw value instead of like with the quotes, I can add a -r and that'll give me the raw value. And then you get the actual value. So this is super cool because you can combine this with what we know about shell coding to do this. You can say echo I like, and then you can do JQ -r dot pi pi.json, there you go, pi. All right, and then we can do this. I like apple pie. So that's pretty cool, huh? Not pretty fun? The jokes you're telling are killing me. ASCII standalone, yes. They have that? Oh boy. I don't know. Let's go try that. Should we try it? So let's try to do the one with the number in it. So, oops, I forgot that needs to be. Oh, it's not pi, it's numbers, right? Numbers. All right, and then we're gonna go look at this. Ooh. I know you can do math on it too, so that would be interesting. I bet you can do math on it. I don't know how. Can I do? There's JQ. Look, JQ is so huge. It's a little slow, but it is huge. I mean, you could do. It has an entire syntax for math and everything. It doesn't look like it expanded it. I don't. What we should test is to see if we can do actual math with it. You can do array constructs. You can actually redefine values. It's extremely complicated. And null can be added to any value. Look at that. Look what that does. Do you see that? It does do math. So let's do this plus 3. Oh boy. It actually worked. So yeah, it sees it as a number. That's cool. That's cool. I didn't know that about JQ. I didn't realize it dealt with E numbers that well. Yeah. So whether it's precise or not, I don't know. You know, see rant during the break. So I'm glad honestly today I wasn't planning on getting pulled into a conversation about types, but I'm glad we did it because it's always the first thing you need to learn before you need to learn any coding. You need to learn what is the data that you're dealing with. Yes, you can do GraphQL. We won't do any GraphQL right now, but I actually have some code that does do quite a bit of GraphQL. GraphQL is a pseudo JSON syntax. It's actually not JSON at all. but it is another language, and we will learn it, but not right now. So anyway, we're just talking about JSON. We're talking about types. We have 7 minutes left, and I think I don't know. I think I don't want to get in too much into the other stuff. I realize now though that we need to talk about this. I know it feels like I'm all over the map, and I want you to understand that's because normally the last 6 years when I teach this stuff, I start with JavaScript in the web browser, and we talk about types and we talk about all this stuff. But the thing I did differently this round of this boost is we jumped right into the shell, and almost naturally we're pulled in just through this force of, using the terminal into, we were configuring our bash environment, which is writing code. And so we were pulled into writing bash code. And so we ended up learning how to code in bash as our first language. And that's kind of caused me to like regroup and go, well, God, I can't teach you how to code until you know what data is. So it's been fun. I really appreciate your guys' input during all of this because, frankly, I'm sort of surprised by I'm a big fan of YML. In fact, let's talk about that. So how do I do pi as YML? And let's just do that really quick. And this is, since we have time for that. These are the 3 structured languages. I'm actually ahead of myself. We're going to talk about this again next week a lot. So let's do a YML one. So make dir YML. And inside of the YML, I'm just going to copy. So let's copy, no, it's just my opacity here. Opacity is just it's just here. Give opacity. There you go. Go knock yourself out. It's an Alacrity editor. So let's see. Let's go here. More important data types. Oh, nice. Thank you, Brett. I had a feeling that was coming. That is a very important data type. Hey, did you like my little icon? Yay, I finally have an icon. Anyway, so let's get through YAML with the last 5 minutes, okay? YAML pretty much is JSON, and the first thing to tell you about YAML is that any JSON is also valid YAML. That's the first thing to tell you about this. So let's go for that. JSON, I'm going to bring in my pi from JSON and do pi.yaml. And I'll put together this lesson. So how do we convert this? So the first thing to understand is this file is YAML. Don't let anybody tell you different. Okay. This file is YAML. As it stands, it can be used with a YAML extension with no change whatsoever. And that is why YAML is so powerful. It's 100% backward compatible with JSON. But then it adds things that are not compatible with JSON that are designed to be, specific to humans. And the biggest thing to take away from this is that YAML was made for humans to edit, and JSON was made for computers to edit and use and save. It is a disastrous assumption that you can produce YAML from a program. Because why? I'm going to show you right now. So YAML is primarily designed for human management. So files that are write only from humans are good candidates for this. But if there is any possibility that you want to cache that data or have a program get involved, no, it's the wrong thing. So, and I actually like to capitalize my string. They don't have to. If I wanted to do this exactly the same as the other one, I would do it like this. I don't even need spaces or anything. All the Python people out there tend to like this because it's very Python-esque. For numbers, actually, I can actually just put 1 on a line, and I can just put a dash here, and I can do a dash for the next one. I could have just used this array if I wanted to, but if I wanted to put them on a line, I can. And I can do dash here and do the number here. I wonder if it's going to pick up the E. This would be interesting. Yep, it did. Oh boy. All right, so then what do we got? And then we need... Oh, okay, so numbers, likes is true. And then nothing is null. and that can just be empty. Okay, so I think they have a null. Does it have a null? I don't remember. Yeah, I guess it does. All right, so, but here's the thing. White space doesn't matter. Not a thing, okay? In fact, these don't even have to be indented. But you can, I mean, it's designed to be like this, right? So, does this person like pie? You can put comments in there. It's like, actually nothing. Ansible uses it. Docker uses it. It's designed to be human friendly. Probably one of the biggest things about it is its use of dashes. Dashes are not indentation. Dashes are I am a member of the list of the array. So it's one of the many ways. JSON does not support comments. You know what else JSON does not support? Line returns. In fact, we need to do that. I need to put an example of that. That's like really important. So let's say rhyme little Jack Horner. What is it called? What is it? Stuck in his thumb. His thumb. And I'm gonna, let's say I had to have a line return here, and pulled out a plum. So you cannot have this. So what I'm about to do, that is illegal. This is the biggest reason that YAML is popular with stuff. Putting those line returns for like text data is super annoying in JSON. It's human readable. It's not human writable. Okay. So that's why, yeah. And YAML I can reuse another value. Yes. You can do that. Yes. So in Pi, if I were to put it in here, I would put something like this. So I would put like a rhyme, and then I would do a bar, and then I can put it on its own line, and I can do its own thing, and it just works. So yes, you can convert YAML to JSON. You absolutely can. In fact, I think I still have a thing on here for that. YAML, nope. YQ, do I have YQ on here? Oh crap. Snap. Install YQ. YQ is a Python script that wraps JQ, and to tell you the truth, I don't like it because it unnecessarily adds Python to the equation. But it is a thing, not to mention it's just, sent through snap, for God's sake. So yq.py. Nope. I don't like YQ. Anyway, so that I actually really like to write one and go. There are ways. I don't have anything on here right now that's doing it, but just know, yes, you can, and it will convert it. And Go will also read YAML directly, which is why I use it. YAML is also what I use in the headers of all of our data. So like when we start doing Pandoc, it's called front matter, but it's part of the Markdown standard. Actually, it's a part of the modern Markdown standard to include front matter. I don't know if it's in the common mark standard though, but it's definitely in Pandoc. So if I wanted to go read, so this is Markdown, and this stuff at the beginning is YML. Okay, so this way you can add structured data and also have, knowledge data. This is why I believe YML is a big part of knowledge source capture. And so yeah, I mean, it's not that difficult to get. In fact, I need to make a little YAML thing right here for this. YAML, what is it? Is it actually YAML? What is it YAML ain't markup, or is it YAML? I don't know what the true one is. YAML is a human readable data serialization language used commonly used to configure files and applications, blah, blah, blah. A recursive acronym for YAML ain't markup language. See, I thought somebody said it was yet another markup language. I think that might be incorrect, actually. Yeah, so that's what I thought it was. It's YAML.org. Let's go read from the horse's mouth. YAML ain't markup language is the official name of YAML. And people say, well, they're just like old. Why would I ever use it? You want an old standard that hasn't changed. You don't want standards that change every year. So, some YAML, okay. Subtitle, human writable, structured data. And I'm going to enable searching on this particular site. So H1 duck means it's enabled. You can click on the link and it will search. YAML is cool. More later. So I have to write some stuff here about it. This is how I'm just showing you a practical example of what I do every day. I can actually go preview now and go look at YAML. And now we have a page. And if I click on YAML link markup, it'll actually go search the internet for YAML. So YAML and Markdown and structured data is a big part of programming. It's a big part of creating things. And you know what's strange? Anybody out there in college or something, has anybody ever taught you structured data? Has anybody ever taught you JSON or YAML officially? I have never encountered any course curriculum that actually officially teaches YAML or JSON. And I gotta tell you, considering that JSON is the lingua franca of the web, the fact that it's not even discussed in any traditional education system, it just confuses the crap out of me. And YAML, of course, YAML is required for everything else. Never tried to teach us JSON, not even XML. Nope, never taught any structured data. Is that just nuts? That's just so nuts to me. It's like, I'm going to end today on this rant. It's like, this is the most significant language those structured data languages are the most significant languages you will ever learn because they are how you capture and share data, and yet they're not taught. I just don't get it. I don't get it. Can I write full and full title plus? You cannot do that. Oh, you're talking about YAML? I think you can put a plus in YAML, but I don't remember. I don't know if I would do that, but you can do that. YAML actually has a bunch of things we haven't touched about that get really make people really hate it. So like Strager didn't like YAML when I mentioned it at one point. YAML has the ability to reference, like with a symbolic link, other data structures, and so it's very much like a database. In fact, I use YAML as a database to manage my private mentees, people I teach. Come here, we'll hack you away into an education secretary. Yeah, don't get me started when I get started. So speaking of that, speaking of rants about college, I'm just going to make one plug before I close. I did add I added 2 sections under the education category in the Discord. If you haven't joined our Discord, please join. One's called corruption and one's called can't keep up. And I encourage you to post specific examples of educational corruption and situations where education can't keep up. Like our friend Lakshan has told us, he's being taught Java applets in 2020. Or Carnegie Mellon is suggesting to use SourceForge and maybe consider using this new hosting service called GitHub. There's rampant examples of education not keeping up, and I just want more specific examples so that people don't think I'm just ranting because I'm a grumpy old guy with a beard. I want to provide objective evidence of why this is true, and that includes people not teaching JSON and YAML. So we actually have one high school teacher who divides her class and has people debate flat Earth. That is not an exaggeration. And that has been reported to me by 4 different people individually in person who were there. This kind of stuff is actually happening, and I'm going to end on this, but part of this is for us to move education forward, and some of that, unfortunately, is to kind of cast a journalistic light on the shit that's happening so that we can kind of John Oliver this, and make them aware of it. Maybe people will come around and frankly shame them into improving, because they're not going to do it otherwise. Take their money away or shame them. Those are the only ways they're going to improve. It's the only language they understand. Yes. Okay. Thank you so much for participating. I'm going to go ahead and shut down now and go do my yoga. I'm going to try my hardest to get my videos up on YouTube, but I'm still kind of hard behind. Where can I get a mug like yours? It's an REI mug, and I just, I'll just put stuff on it. Yeah, you know what? That might have been what they were doing. They might have been debating. They might have been studying debate, but in a computer science course, no. And this particular teacher has regularly shared her actual conviction that the Earth is flat. And what I would rather do is train up other teachers who can take that teacher's place. In a public school too, no less. People complain about teaching creationism in school. It's not being taught properly, and then all of a sudden you have, anyway, don't get me started. It's a political topic. All right. Let's be happy. Let's part on a happy note. I'm going to go do my yoga. Namaste. Yes. Nijista. Om Gam Ganapatiye Namaha. Today I would be like Om Suryaya Namaha, because there's no sun. But talk on coding standards sometimes. I would like to, yeah. What type of Linux world is a Minecraft world? It really is. Yet another marvelous lesson. Okay, who are we raiding? Is Chris up? Oh, brother for raid? I'm fine. Twitch raid. Who's oh brother? I don't know who oh brother is. Superhero Data, you haven't suggested somebody for a while. I don't mind. Can't imagine. Any other votes? Any other votes there? You get Rob to read it once. Superhero is streaming. I don't know who that is, but I'm gonna raid him. So here it comes. And I'm actually gonna a show of a rant when he does that. Just ranting. I just get here and we're rating. Sorry. You gotta, it starts at 11, ends at 2. Watch the VODs. Oh, digital electronics. Ooh. I want to see that. I like digital electronics. That's if I could spend more time doing stuff, that's what I would personally do. It's just so much time in the day, people. Not enough time in the day for everything you want to do. Sigh. Hey, there I am. Oh God. Or doing that thing where you look at yourself. I never get tired of this. I'm sorry, I just never get tired of this. Don't use 4 hours. I just never get tired of it. They're like laughing. Like now they're all thumbs upping me. For loops, yes, for loops indeed, which we totally missed today. Today we had to throw in data types. And tomorrow we have to throw in regular expressions kind of early. Yes, it's definitely recursive. All right, raid now, shall we? Ready, go. Have a good day, people. Raideroni. Oh man, he's doing King of the Hill. That's super cool. Anyway. Yeah, I know. I did that before. You're still alive behind the host. I know. I actually did that once. I was like totally picking my nose and everything. Yeah, I know. I've done that before actually. There's one time I left. Yeah, take care. One time I left and I came back and yeah, I was still streaming. Yeah, it was really crazy. It was just insane. It was like when I was first doing this. But I know better now. Twitch stop. Thanks, Zero. Take care.